Alrighty, folks, welcome into the Central Committee stream with your host Mike from PA. We are live once again. It is a clear, beautiful Wednesday, October 15th. We're getting Halloween again. Claudia just said on her morning stream that try to work with her to get lower prices on appliances to help people whose homes were just flooded in Mexico. Oh. God, she's so fucking cool. She wouldn't congratulate the CIA agent who won the Nobel Prize either. She said no comment. What an absolute queen. Is Trump's America at the start of a Soviet-style downfall? I think so. Oh yeah, I saw this chat. Taylor Lorenz. Yeah, I mean, I dropped another one as well, chat. I dropped a couple Kaya Gate videos. The first making fun of Charlie, and then the second one more directly. The editors, sorry editors, I need to put together a document, chat, about how do you use the algorithm? What do you do to figure out the algorithm? It's kind of, I mean, I already kind of do it. Excuse me. Although my streams wax and wane in quality. Let's just be honest, okay? Anytime you're a live streamer, especially when you're a live streamer at 6 fucking a.m., you know, you're not going to necessarily have as much, you know, I don't have people that I could watch as I putter around for 5 hours and then start my stream. But the topic's already vetted. The UAW has endorsed Graham Plattner for U.S. Senate in Maine. Yeah, I mean, there was no doubt that this was going to happen. Listen, chat, I am a supporter of Graham Plattner, and so far as I think you should vote for him in the primary in Maine. But I have reservations. I have reservations that I need to have fleshed out. I think overall his policies seem pretty decent for a Democrat, but I really worry, and him being anti-APAC is really, really interesting. Like, that is really the sign that he's a different type of politician. Now, whenever you run for office, there's going to be some triangulations. It's just how it works. It's always been that way. I mean, Bernie Sanders used to be like pro-gun. That was his triangulation in Vermont. And it was really effective. I mean, that's why he outperformed Obama by 7 points. Like, when you look at these two races, wow, Wikipedia, thanks. Bernie Sanders, 71%, 207,848 votes. And Barack Obama, 66%. Which was 199,239. I mean, not only did Bernie Sanders like outperform Obama, he got more votes than Obama. That's crazy for a down ballot race. That's almost unheard of. For the winning side Democrat to underperform the down ballot race, this is unheard of shit. Now, sometimes there's split tickets where, like, say that, you know, Kamala Harris loses, but, you know, an incumbent senator holds on. That is that's an important overperformance as well, but this is crazy. 71%. Graham recently said at a town hall that he wants to haul ICE agents and leadership in front of the Senate to answer for their treason. I mean, that is pretty base. That is pretty base. So all in all, like, I think critical support for Graham. And the reason why is because the DCCC, or the DSCC, excuse me, the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, is literally going all in on Janet Mills. And whenever the Democratic Party goes all in on someone against someone else, I'm going with the person, I'm going to work against the DSCC. This is, like, honestly, that's a pretty big signal. And this is APAC shit right here. This is Israel interference. Because if you remember, Chuck Schumer said his main job was to keep the left pro-Israel. My main job is to keep the left pro-Israel. Like, what the fuck? My job, he told me, is to keep the left pro-Israel. So when the DSCC interferes in that primary, it's for this and this alone. And I want to say something to people. And people may disagree with this. I think you're wrong if you do. The best thing we could do is destroy and disrupt the Israel lobby in America. If the Israel lobby is working against someone, I'm going to be there opposing them. I am a single issue anti-Israel voter. And so That for me, if somebody comes out and speaks strongly against Israel and against AIPAC, and they're getting fucking funded by their opponent is getting funded by AIPAC, I am going to support them. And that doesn't mean uncritically. It doesn't mean I'll have no criticisms, or it doesn't mean I'm going to say never disagree with them. But I'm going to do what I can to defeat Israel. If Israel is working against someone, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to do, you know, there's people that think that like, oh, I'm going to find one excuse to say that, well, it doesn't really matter, and then sit out. If that's what you want to do, then you probably shouldn't be here. Like, I mean that. Like, if your goal in politics is to try to find reasons why you're going to sit on your fucking ass and wait for a more convenient season, but wokely, then you're fucking useless to me. Mike, I can show you this. It's a guy running as a city commissioner for his local city. I know this guy from a server rod. He's a full-blown Marxist running for local government. Is it Jersey City? Oh, this guy seems pretty cool. I'll have to check it out. I don't know if Graham calls himself a socialist or not. I know that there's a lot of socialists working for him. I think a lot of people underestimate how important having a pro left-wing climate is. That's my feeling with Kat. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Being anti-Israel is my main thing. I asked Kat if she was a Deb socialist or socialist, and she refused to answer. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's kind of my problem with her. I don't really understand the like hesitation. You know, the same reason she didn't run against the 68-year-old centrist one district over at a district Johnson won, where the guy looks like Shrek. Yeah, it's very odd she picked the district she did. She picked like one of the most pro-Palestine people in Chicago to run against. It's like, huh? Weird. All right, what else are we going to talk about today? Oh my God. The Young Republican chat leaks. The National Young Republican chat leaks where they're saying, I love Hitler. And they're saying they call black people watermelon people. Where they stay in the closet F slur. I'd go to the zoo. I mean, like, this is crazy shit. Everyone who votes no is going to the gas chamber. And I think this is something that Hassan and I, in particular, among political commentators have been pointing out, and we pointed this out first, is that young Democrats are socialists and young Republicans are Nazis. And that is a sign that, has the ADL commented on this? This doesn't have to do with Israel, so the ADL doesn't care. You see Booker throwing Obama under the bus for drone striking Yemen and to punt on Israel? Yeah, because he text messages with the leader of AIPAC like they are old friends or whatever. What did he say? High school friends? Something insane like that. They referred to black people as monkeys and the watermelon people. No, they weren't talking about Palestine. In politics, young is anybody under the age of 45. If you're under the age of 45, you are young. Cool, made the cut. Barely. We're running out of time. And the other thing, oh, okay, what else was I going to talk about? Taco Trump. Trump is caving on the Chinese tariffs as usual. Israel is trying to break the terms of the ceasefire. Trump is like, we're going to send American troops to disarm Hamas. I mean, he is so dumb. It's unbelievable. The Pentagon is trying to force the media to do like a loyalty oath. So all of the young are disillusioned, unsatisfied with the status quo, and half of us are falling for the scapegoats. Who said it was half? I said if you're a young Democrat, you're probably sympathetic to socialists. If you're a young Republican, you're probably sympathetic to the Nazis. I didn't say that it was 50-50. Just because there are two options, it doesn't mean that people are going to be 50-50, you know? It's like if the choices are vanilla ice cream and shit ice cream, I think you're going to find only a few people living in Bel Air who'd kill their dogs with cheese picking the shit flavor. So just because there's two options doesn't mean it's going to be 50-50. That's something to keep in mind. That's a cognitive bias on your part. I think it's a lot of people who already hate Hassan and people who know nothing about dog trade or dogs who simply don't listen. Okay, first of all, there are three categories of people in the Hassan shit. There are closet right-wingers who wanted to use this opportunity to try to throw shit on Hassan, and they thought they had an apolitical way to do it. So these are people that are actually right-wing, but they present themselves as apolitical or centrist, and they were hunting for an excuse to be able to go after Hassan. Wasn't explicitly political, purely personal. Okay. There is the bad faith political enemies of Hassan that are desperate to shut him up and can't debate on policy. I mean, when was the last time there was a policy debate? Do you think Asmongold or Destiny know anything about policy? Do you think they actually know how to research policy? Do you know how they, do you know what, like, seriously? Did the dickhead who said you were Hassan's dog or that I wanted to wear Hassan's dog collar apologize? No. No, they did not. Price controls from Trump. I just want you to understand something, chat, that this shows you that politics is more about identity games than policy. And this is where I think those of us who are materialists get surprised. Materialism will get you most of the way there. But if you don't understand human frailty, you will oftentimes fail because you're not, if you don't understand how humans think and therefore what kind of cognitive errors they have, things like loss aversion. This is one that gets a lot of progressives that fucks them up. Is loss aversion is basically a conservative impulse that we all have, may be ingrained in us evolutionarily, which is we have a cognitive bias in favor of stuff we already have versus possible future gains, even if the gains are highly certain. So people are much more scared of losing what they have than they are greedy to gain something new. That makes sense. So to fight against progressive change, like what do they do to exploit that cognitive bias? Well, they come up with policies, they come up with arguments that will exploit it. Like, for example, do you want to lose your health insurance? You put people in panic mode. They think, oh no, I'm going to lose my health insurance. I'm going to lose my doctor. I'm going to become more vulnerable. Like, that is an argument that's intended to exploit loss aversion. Let me break down the debate on industrial overcapacity in China. The term overcapacity is increasingly being used to describe industrial production in China that exceeds domestic demand. The reason this has become a hot topic in China is producing a tremendous volume of goods at a low price, outcompeting other countries in subsectors. That's what capitalism is that's supposed to be what capitalism does, right? Which is competition, fosters efficiency, fosters lower price for the consumer, fosters efficiency. And so therefore, over time, the better companies and better processes win, and money flows to those that best manage it. Capital flows to those that manage capital best. And so human development increases. That is the fundamental argument of the pro-capitalist side. That's their strongest arguments, okay? Which is like, the problem with your planning is you'll get plans wrong. That's like their argument. And it's like, if you control the economy too tightly and you make major errors in planning, then because you've centralized the decision making too strictly, there will be huge vulnerabilities when there are unforeseen problems, or you're not able to correctly forecast demand, or all sorts of things like that. In capitalism, when the markets fail to do those things, you just say, well, the market failed, nobody could have seen this coming. You hand wave it away because there's no one to really blame. So capitalism is constantly fucking up, but because the responsibility is diffuse, you could just wave it away as natural. I'm going to trust the guy who implemented tariffs the worst possible way to do price controls responsibly. He's doing price floors, which is basically pro-inflation. He's trying to, this is like the opposite of what we need or what people want. He's like, I'm going to raise the price on goods. Oh, are your TVs really cheap? I'm going to raise the price of TVs. It's like, what? Yeah, man, if you do central planning, you might screw up and allocate hundreds of billions of dollars in capital to bullshit tech that doesn't work. The reason why the argument I just made from the pro-capitalist side doesn't work is because humans are herd animals, especially in markets. And people are they're not making investments based on like some sort of desire to see the economy be more efficient. They make investments for the desire to see speculative gain. So a rational capitalist doesn't care if he invests in cryptocurrency, which has no connection to the actual economy, or building hospitals that raises our life expectancy by 5 years. Like, the capitalist is completely ambivalent between the two. He's like, what is going to give me the higher return? Me as an individual. Now, cryptocurrencies are just speculative assets that serve as an imperfect substitute for things like gold or other currency. It's a collective delusion. And humanity has collective delusions. Like, the fact that we really value precious gemstones because they're pretty, that's just a collective delusion. Their utility is, minimal, except for maybe like an aesthetic and cultural traditional utility. Same thing with gold. It's like, why are we obsessed with this rock? It's fucking stupid. You could have a lot of gold. It doesn't really enhance your well-being in any measurable way. Yet we have these collective delusions, these speculative delusions. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, before I got off track, because we're herd animals and because capitalists only care about return, they just pile into things that are going up fast. And by piling up on things that are going up fast, it makes it go up faster. More people buy into some sort of speculative bubble, the faster the bubble inflates and the higher it inflates, because there is a limited supply of these speculative instruments. And then what goes from being this might be a really important part of the economy that's returning real profit on capital investment, it becomes a delusional speculative bubble. And we've seen it for so long. The classic example is the tulip bulb bubble. And price floors create oversupply, by the way. Is this the Indian website?
I want to express my...
This CNBC TV 18, this is like not real, right? Like, I guess it's so weird. They're just stealing CNBC's. They're just stealing CNBC's, like, that's crazy that there's 4.37 million just stealing CNBC's IP. That's crazy. Is that why those markets are called bull markets, since bulls are herd animals? Exactly. Sorry, here's the video.
It's no secret that history repeats itself. And when it comes to the stock market, investors will do whatever mental gymnastics they need to convince themselves that this time it's different. In fact, legendary investor Sir John Templeton, who averaged 15% annual growth for 38 years, called those the four most expensive words in the English language. And he's right, because nothing empties a brokerage account faster than blind optimism dressed up as financial genius. Which brings us to Jesse Livermore. Jesse Livermore, who is considered a pioneer of speculative trading in the markets, was the basis for the main character in the best-selling book Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, and is most well known for making his fortunes by shorting markets during crashes. Once said, "There's nothing new in Wall Street. There can't be, because speculation is as old as the hills. Whatever happens in the stock market today has happened before and will happen again." And there's a stock market bubble that nobody talks about anymore. It's a bubble that looks disturbingly similar to the current state of the market. I'm not talking about the dot-com bubble of the early 2000s or the 2008 financial crisis. I'm talking about a bubble you probably have never heard of. It was a bubble that when it popped, the damage was ugly. The market crashed 50%. Many of the world's largest companies lost 60 to 80% of their value. Inflation surged from 3 to 11%, and the market didn't fully recover for 8 years. I'm talking about the Nifty 50 bubble of the early 1970s. The story starts in the late 19...
I was talking to Joshua about this yesterday, because I was talking about how I'm, as I enter middle age, when I was 10 years old, World War II veterans were all over the place. When I was 20, World War II veterans were all over the place. Okay? They were old, but they were still around. So basically people who had a living memory of FDR and World War II. Okay? They were around and they were talking and they were writing shit and they had opinions on things. Okay? So fascism was just not really considered to be, it was considered to be like the ultimate evil, even from conservative people, because they had that lived experience of World War II. They had the lived experience of the consequences of fascism, and they had a real hatred of it. But as they've all died out, the memory of World War II is no longer a real human memory where you can go and talk to a person about it. It's now the memory of whatever random fucking shit you were taught in high school or media you've consumed, or whatever random videos you've stumbled across on the internet. People are now uneducated dipshits, and World War II to them and the 30s to them is pretty much the same as the 1830s. They don't know shit. And so I oftentimes, one of the biggest errors, and I don't know how to fix this. This is a tough one for me, and I think about this a lot. And my honest to God, the way, like, this is me being brutally honest. I assume that everyone I'm talking to doesn't know anything about anything. Like, I literally assume that when I'm talking to someone, they don't know anything. Literally. I never assume they know literally anything. Like, I don't even assume they really know who the president is. Maybe except for Trump. But I would not assume a random person knows who JD Vance is, let alone AOC. Okay? And that's contemporary politics. I don't assume that people know shit. So I will ask people. I will ask. The problem is people will lie to you because they are embarrassed. They will lie to you because they're embarrassed. And so sometimes I'll ask if somebody knows something, and then they'll say yes, and I'll explain it anyway because I don't believe them. But I won't call them out. I'll just do it. I was like, well, what I mean by that is, and the reason why is because I don't think anybody knows anything about anything. And I don't know what random crap you know or you don't know. So it's useful to try to get you on the same page as me. Also, I don't like to just launch into explaining shit. I like to have conversations with people and then build rapport until they like trust me and they're curious about what I know about some topic. Then I'll explain shit. I never try to go into a conversation with somebody to explain things. Trust me. It's a bad idea. I had a 4-hour conversation with my parents. I noticed them seem to lack knowledge. What is neoliberalism? The main component to socialism. What was the Nakba? I don't know. Meanwhile, they have plenty to say about Israel. My parents are clueless and don't do any due diligence. Exactly. That's why democracy, socialism, they're not things that you are born capable of understanding and wielding responsibly. It's like a gun. Think of politics like a gun. You're not born knowing how to wield it. And if you wield it irresponsibly, it will kill people. Now, luckily, humanity has kindergarten morality, which is the golden rule. Basically, do unto others as you'll have done unto you. We humans innately have that kind of sense. Thank God. It's the only reason we have exterminated ourselves. But more advanced moral reasoning, than that falls really flat. Like, humans are not... Like, there are some people that are, but... The vast majority of people are not spending a lot of time thinking about morals. My mom thought Puerto Rico had Senate representation. I recently watched Destiny do a 50-state map of the US. Somebody find me that clip. Somebody showed me a clip of Destiny doing the 50-state map. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I think he only got 60%. Not the capitals, the states. Identify the states. Anyway, let's keep going. So this video is talking about the Arab oil embargo, which is probably one of the most under-discussed topics for some reason. I don't know why. It used to be really important to boomers, but they would blame the personage of Jimmy Carter for it as opposed to what actually happened. Sorry for the LSF link. It's fine. Funny clips of Destiny are always allowed.
Does Russia share a border with Egypt anywhere? I thought that it was blocked completely.
That's not what I was talking about, but god damn, that's embarrassing. Egypt is one of the only countries in Africa that I would think the average American would get correct. God, he's so dumb. Jesus Christ.
1960s. The United States has just ridden a 20-year economic sugar high following World War II. Factories were booming, suburbs were popping up out of nowhere like acne on a teenager, and Americans thought the country was invincible. Because in the late 60s, people had money, they had confidence, and most importantly, they had blind optimism. And why wouldn't they? The United States had just beaten Germany in World War II, dropped a man on the moon, allegedly, and most importantly, invented the Etch-a-Sketch. Life was good. And in the middle of all this optimism was the stock market. From the end of World War II in 1945 all the way to 1970, the United States stock market had gained over 350%. This unprecedented bull run led to a new strategy in investing becoming popularized. It was known as investing in one-decision stocks. The concept was simple. Invest in companies so powerful and so dominant that you only had one decision to make when it came to investing in them: buy. These stocks became known as the Nifty 50. The Nifty 50 wasn't comprised of penny stocks or emerging tech companies, but it was comprised of blue-chip companies that generated stable cash flows. It was companies like Coca-Cola, American Express, McDonald's, and various other household names. Investors saw these companies as bulletproof. And
Wait, when did American Express... Okay, it started as a freight forwarding company, and it developed its first charge card in 1958, gold card in 66, green card in 69, platinum card in 1984, and Centurion card in 1999.
Because of this, the idea of ever selling any of these stocks was considered crazy. Here's the thing about investing. If something sounds like a no-brainer investment with zero downside, it's almost always a financial grenade with the pin already pulled. And that was exactly the case here. By the early 1970s, the Nifty 50 stocks weren't just expensive, they were priced like gravity didn't affect Wall Street. The average PE ratio for the overall market at the time was a humble 15. Respectable, normal. The kind of number you could bring home to your parents. But the never sell mentality around the Nifty 50 turned their valuations into numbers you only see in a fairy tale. Coca-Cola was trading at 46 times earnings, Xerox 49 times earnings, McDonald's 86 times earnings.
Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the book value of the company is 46 years of what the revenue they're kept bringing in. So in other words, if you were going to try to buy the company with its own revenue, it would require you to spend 46 years waiting. So these multiples imply there's going to be a lot of growth in the profitability of the company.
Polaroid 90 times earnings.
Bitcoin is 150% year over year average since 2019. Yeah, that is fucking crazy.
And the list just keeps going. On average, the Nifty 50 stocks were trading at a jaw-dropping 42 times earnings. And it doesn't stop there. At the peak, the top 5 Nifty 50 stocks made up around a quarter of the entire market. And collectively, the entire Nifty 50 group made up roughly 45% of the total United States stock market. Then came
Did I say revenue? I meant, yeah. Did I say revenue? I meant earnings is like profitable earnings.
1973 to 1974. The dominoes fell one by one, and reality came in and slapped everyone across the face. Oil prices quadrupled, inflation jumped to over 11%, unemployment doubled
oh my God. I said book value, I meant market cap, not book value. Book value is like, what are the assets of the company minus the liabilities? Whereas market cap is, what is the current market price of the shares times the float? Like the number of shares that are available. I need to get more caffeine, chat.
4.5% to 9%. And President Nixon effectively ended the gold standard for good. This led to the stock market plunging 50% between 1973 and 1974, which marked the worst bear market since the Great Depression. And when the economy falls apart, overpriced stocks don't just correct, they get obliterated. In the Nifty 50, Coca-Cola shares fell over 60%, McDonald's shares fell over 70%, and worst of all, Polaroid shares collapsed more than 90%. The so-called one-decision stocks turned into one big financial obituary. And here's the real gut punch. The damage wasn't quick. This wasn't a cute little V-shaped recovery like we saw after the pandemic. It took the market 8 years, until 1981, to crawl back to the same level it had been at before the bubble popped. This was the reality of the Nifty 50 collapse. Investors who thought they were buying eternal growth stocks ended up trapped in financial purgatory for the better part of a decade. Now, if you're looking at the current state of the market and getting a slight sense of déjà vu, you're not alone. In fact, Mark Twain once said, "History does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme." And while not identical, today's stock market undeniably rhymes with the one back in 1972. And back in 1972, the Nifty 50 made up nearly 45% of the total United States stock market. Meaning, with every dollar invested into a stock market index fund, investors were making a bet that these Nifty 50 companies would somehow grow into these ridiculous price tags slapped on them. And if you fast forward to today, the movie has the same plot, just with shinier special effects. The United States tech giants, better known as the Magnificent Seven, now make up around 36%.
Yeah, there's only 7 companies too. And they're so shit. They're such fucking dumb pieces of shit companies. It's actually crazy.
Of the entire S&P 500. That's right. 7 companies, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, and Nvidia, carry the weight of the entire stock market. If that feels eerily familiar to the level of concentration we saw with the Nifty 50 companies, it's because it is. Yes,
all I know is when Bitcoin people thought that the economy was going to be bad, it dumped 20% in one day. Now, that tells me if there's a real crash, like a real honest to God panic, Bitcoin is going to, who knows how low it's going to go. You know what I mean? Like but at the same time, it has inflated so high, it's insane. I've been predicting the demise of crypto for a long time, but honestly, or not the demise of I haven't predicted the demise of crypto, but I've been a crypto skeptic because it has no value. But the one thing that I thought might happen is it got too big to fail. And so we just start bailing it out with the treasury, right? Like we start saying, well, I mean, too many rich people would stop being rich if we let this value go to zero. So we're just going to not let that happen. And that kind of like that federal put keeps Bitcoin inflated. I think it's part of why Trump worries about stock market so much. He's got billions in scam crypto schemes right now. Yeah, I know. That's such a good point. You know, investing isn't about making money from something that's helpful for humanity, right? If that were true, you guys would all be invested in Chinese infrastructure stocks, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like the market doesn't give a shit if you're efficient and effective and you deliver, right? That's not what the market's about. The market is about making money. It might be that I don't entirely understand economics, but the dot-com bubble seems understandable. The internet and online shopping is objectively more efficient in a lot of ways. With AI, it seems so fake. This is such a good question. Thank you for asking this question, Cash is a Squid. Welcome into the Central Committee stream. The reason why you're having trouble here is because it's about scale, all right? I'll explain it to you like this. Let's say that we need to build a train from point A to point B because we expect there to be 10,000 people riding the train, okay? And you and I build the train, set the capacity at 10K, and it fills up, and it makes us a lot of money. And we're like, hell yeah, we were right. We made the train. It's full. It is 10,000. It's making us a lot. It's printing money. The train hit. And then other people see that you and I made money making a train. And they're like, I want to make a train. And then somebody else makes a train for somewhere else and it makes money. And they're like, holy shit, making trains prints. And then they make 1,000 trains. They're making trains that are like 50 times the capacity of the ridership. Like there's trades everywhere. Okay. And then suddenly all this money is flowing into train making. People are setting up train depots and they're setting up train car factories and millions of people are installing more track. There is some amount of capacity of trains that we absolutely should build and should need. And there's even a further capacity of trains where maybe the train operator doesn't make money, but the net effect for the economy is positive. So building that train probably helps the economy, even if that specific train route isn't profitable in a direct way. But if you overbuild everywhere and and it's completely unmoored to like making money or useful capacity, trains to nowhere. Now, what used to make sense, what used to be a profitable investment, what used to be something that was valuable for humanity becomes something that is wasteful for humanity, something that is unsustainable for humanity, and it goes belly up. That's the problem with these bubbles, is maybe these AI chat bubbles could have had some marginal utility in some parts of the economy, but we're spending trillions upon trillions upon trillions. And the problem that you have is a problem that almost everyone has. Once you get above a couple $1,000,000, money starts to lose connection to reality. It stops making sense. It starts just being such an unfathomably large number that you don't really get it. Okay? And that's where we are with AI. We are in an unfathomably large number that will never, ever, ever track back. Okay? Like, I'll give you an example that maybe will help. But just grab a calculator. There are 340 million people in America. Oh, I'm sorry, chat. I put one too many zeros. Okay. 340 million people in America. If every single person gave $10 to a company, that's 3.4 billion. Okay? 3.4 billion. How much? Okay. That $10 is a lot to get from every single person. But what if we got 1,000 from everybody? What if we got 10,000 from everybody? These are numbers that are impossible to happen, but they're assuming that, but the way that AI is being valued now, 1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion. There's only 7 billion people on the planet. This number, $1 trillion, an incalculably large number. We are in La La Land.
Magnificent Seven companies are innovative.
That's $200 from every single person on the planet. No, exactly. But do you understand? Some people make less than $1 a day. Like, I think something like 1 billion plus people make less than $1 a day. That can't be true. It can't be true. It's batshit.
And yes, they dominate their industries. But so did Xerox, so did Polaroid, and so did Avon Products back in 1972. The Magnificent Seven have become the modern echo of the one decision stocks that dominated back in 1972. When it comes to the Mag 7...
3 billion is 0.3% of 1 trillion. Yes, I know. That's exactly my point. It's like you need people to spend 100 times, 1,000 times. It's incomprehensible.
Investors are acting as if there's only one decision to make when it comes to investing in them. So what about the valuations of these modern-day tech giants? Surely they're priced fairly, right? Well, not at all. Let's just say they're also priced like gravity doesn't affect them. Google and Meta trade at 28 times earnings, Amazon 35 times earnings, Apple 37 times earnings, Microsoft trades at 38 times earnings, Nvidia 50 times earnings, and Tesla 247 times earnings. Are these solid companies? Absolutely. Are they overpriced, overweighted, and worshipped as if they're bulletproof? Also, yes. And just like in 1972, investors are telling themselves the exact same bedtime story. These companies are untouchable and will grow forever. All we're missing is a couple of macroeconomic dominoes to fall, and we're right back where we were. Warren Buffett summed it up best. What we learn from history is that people don't learn from history. So here we are, once again, staring at a top-heavy market, pretending valuations don't matter, and whispering the 4 most expensive matter.
I mean, look at this shit, chat. Come on, dude. Come on. 247 times earnings. Come on. For one of the largest companies in the world, this is stupid. This is fucking stupid.
And whispering the 4 most expensive words in the English language. This time, it's different.
We are so fucked. We are legitimately fucked.
Late last week, the US shocked economists with a report that contained results they were not really expecting. The economy had grown at a shocking 3.8% pace in the second quarter, seemingly putting to rest all of the concerns that the naysayers had about
We've got a Kaiser Permanente strike,
the softening job market, trade wars, the cost of living, skyrocketing defaults, declining labor force participation, sector-wide crises, and slowing productivity. Sounds great, right? Well, as you might have already guessed, there is a lot to unpack from these numbers. GDP isn't a flawless measure, even in normal times, and I'm sure you have probably noticed there is a lot going on at the moment.
I gotta say, chat, that I'm realizing I'm more boomer coded every day.
But if you do what nobody else wants to do and actually read the data behind these figures, it tells 3 very interesting stories that challenges a lot of assumptions that we have about how our economy.
East Village Boy says, when you explain big numbers to us using time, it really stuck with me. I use that analogy to get through to people. 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 31.6 years. How many is 1 trillion seconds? How much time is a trillion seconds? 31,709 years, which basically is all of human existence as a agricultural society, plus 20,000 years. It's like every single speck of recorded history times 3. A trillion is a number that doesn't even really compute.
Economy should work. This goes well beyond just simply growing inequality. That's not exactly shocking news anymore. But if you are looking for a sign of just how healthy and balanced the current market is, a new report has revealed that there are now more private equity firms in America than there are McDonald's. And the reason is very simple. If all of these numbers needed a headline, it would probably be, "You don't matter anymore." Economically speaking, of course.
GDP report showing that the U.S. economy expanded at 3.8%, surpassing the forecast growth of 3.3%.
36% of consumers say they've had trouble paying in just the last week, so that is up 25% compared to the same time period a year ago.
So you have to go to your landlord and say, I don't know how I'm going to pay you. I've never had to do that.
Trillions of dollars are pouring into the United States for investment purposes.
The U.S. economy grew faster than expected between April and...
So yeah, that wasn't a typo. There are now 19,000 private...
So I took Vio and Casey Tron to a concert last night, and it was in Pomona. I hope they don't mind me saying this. It's in the past, so who gives a shit? And I have to say that we're in a depression. We're in a depression. We went to... Vio was, was like, hey, can we stop over and get some French fries at a McDonald's before the concert? And I said, sure. So we go into the McDonald's. And as I step out of the car, because we went into the McDonald's, there was a guy just on the front stoop of the McDonald's, because it was raining, which is rare in, LA area. And he was just hitting a pipe of some crystalline substance I didn't quite recognize. Okay, let's just say it didn't look the purest. Right there, go into the McDonald's. The sign says, we don't do refills, right? So that you go right off the bat. And I look at the prices for McDonald's. And I haven't gone to McDonald's in a long time. And I don't go to McDonald's. But this is the first time I've gone into a McDonald's in years. Okay, just for the fries because Via was feeling like lightheaded. Okay, this is the only reason I broke this rule. And I looked at the prices, and it was like what used to be the $1 McDouble is now $4.89. And I was like, I have maintained my McDonald's fucking boycott. And I only broke this for emergency fries, and I just walked out. I couldn't. It just. Going through Pomona, and listen, Pomona's a poor area. I'm used to living in poor areas my life, but this is what it looks like during a depression. And you look up housing prices, and you're talking about burned out ruins for $400,000 plus in a undesirable poor area. What? I mean, McDonald's being like, we don't give you free soda? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? That shows how long it's been. I'm used to the land of milk and honey where they had the fucking thing out and you could just give yourself a refill. How is McDonald's this tight? Like, how is things this bad? I got Chinese takeout for 3 people last night. It was $70. I mean, shit. Like, when I'm in California, like when I'm moving around California, I literally cannot believe that a single person would vote for Gavin Newsom. It's like incomprehensible to me. Like, that's an insane position. This state is in collapse. Like, the highways are covered in garbage. Like the streets are filthy. There is so many people out on the streets. It is like pictures from the Great Depression. Mike, the average American voter believes the state shouldn't do anything for them. That's incorrect. The average American voter doesn't believe that the state will ever do anything for them, which is different. Like in the first Trump administration, we all made fun of this picture.
In all your travels, and
we made fun of this picture, but now we're like, God damn, they dip deep into the White House budget. Like 27 Filet-O-Fishes. God damn, that's a lot of money. We used to be like, wow, how classless is he? We're like, damn, how does he afford that?
Equity funds in the U.S. and only 14,000 McDonald's locations. The statistic was originally highlighted by Elisa Wood, a partner at one of the biggest private equity firms in the world. Ironies aside though, the reason this is happening is because there is just more opportunity in serving investment products to a few thousand ultra-high net worth individuals and institutions than there is in serving burgers to millions of everyday Americans. As an economic participant, you really only have 3 jobs as far as these numbers are concerned. You can work, you can invest, and you can consume. So do keep this in mind as we jump into the...
Damn, McDonald's in Pomona? I'm just saying I went to one and didn't even... it was urban blight. It was honestly... And like, I walked around afterward. Because I am somebody who has been on my own since I was 18. And I've lived in fucking squirrely places, chat. I lived in Middlesex, Pennsylvania. If you want an idea of how dire that is, it's like in the shadow of 3 Mile Island. Okay, and you can see the cooling towers for 3 Mile Island. So not only is it broke, it's like radiation poisoning. Okay, like this is I've been in dire places, and honestly, it's starting to feel like it's crazy because I was in Pomona. We went to Rodeo Drive a year ago, chat, and it was a shithole. Like, as I was walking around Rodeo Drive, I was like, this is what it's all for, and it sucks. This would be a rundown street in like any European city. Like, what the fuck? Everything sucks. You can move anytime. You think I'm criticizing these places because I have contempt for the people? That's the opposite. I am criticizing these places because it's depressing to see such amazing potential totally squandered by the Democratic Party.
Because there are really 3 big problems with a lot of our assumptions. The first problem is what this impressive economic growth figure is actually based on. GDP is normally calculated by summing together household consumption, investment, government spending, and exports, and then subtracting total imports. When the Bureau of Economic Analysis says that the economy is growing at 3.8%, they do this calculation for a quarter, compare the difference to last quarter, and then multiply it by 4 to get an annualized figure. If you are so inclined, they publish the individual breakdowns of all of these numbers, and if you did look closely at the most recent report, there is one number buried deep in the data that really puts this promising headline into perspective. In Q1 of this year, imports into America spiked by over 38% from the quarter before. This was mostly because big retailers wanted to stock up on inventory before tariffs took effect so they could remain cost competitive for a few more months. But in Q2, after they had already filled all of their warehouses, they didn't need to bring in more inventory from overseas, so imports dropped by over 29%. Now remember, when the economists do their calculations, they subtract imports. So on paper, a crash in import volume is actually good for GDP numbers. In reality though, international trade swinging this wildly over 6 months in the biggest economy in the world is not great. But it gets worse. Within the same report, it is noted that this large drop in imports actually bolstered GDP by over 5%. What this means in plain English is that if we ignored the wild swings in import volumes, GDP would have actually shrunk by 1.2% at an annualized rate. Now, as a small little side note, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, I'm sure the comment section can tell you what that's an indication of. Now, you might think a little glitch in the reporting process still shouldn't have this much of an impact on the performance of the entire economy, right? And you would be absolutely correct. Over 2/3 of the American economy depends on just this part here. Personal consumption now accounts for 68% of all of our economic activity, well above most other advanced economies, which is clearly not ideal, but it has given us 2 pieces of false confidence. The first is that since so much of the economy relies on consumer spending, we can't let those consumers fall too far, or else there will be nobody left to sell stuff to, right? Wrong.
Oh, thank you for the link.
I have mentioned this statistic before, but for those who haven't heard it, 50% of all consumer spending is now done by just the top 10% of households. Now, that's a scary statistic by itself, but what it doesn't mention is that the bottom 60% of households now collectively account for less than 20% of the spending, and a growing share of that is being supported by risky consumer debt. The companies that have been performing best over the last 5 years have been in industries catering to wealthy consumers or to investor hype. Ferrari is now worth twice as much as Honda, and even Walmart is changing its business model to cater to more upmarket shoppers. More than 200 million people could drastically cut their spending tomorrow, and the total drop in economic activity could be covered over by increased spending on things like AI. In fact, it's kind of already happening. Personal consumption contributed less to economic growth than data center construction in the last reported quarter, and a majority of that consumption was done by just 10% of households anyway. Steve Eisman of Big Short fame did an extended interview on this a few days ago, and it goes into depth on a lot of the specifics, so I will leave a link to that down below. But in brief, this is more than just regular old inequality. Today we have something arguably worse: indifference. The lords of old at least needed their serfs to keep their empire operating. Today, not so much. As far as the economy is concerned, your ability to be a good little consumer is just a rounding error. And that leaves only your ability to work and your ability to invest. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why you don't matter anymore to the economy. This week's video is sponsored by Gamma, the tool that's changing the way people build presentations and content. If you have... yeah, sure. your success might not mean that much to the economy anymore. But the success of the economy also doesn't mean that much to you anymore. Over the last 40 years, personal productivity has doubled, even accounting for inflation. That means the average American is now producing twice as much as they were 40 years ago. And this has given even average people access to comforts, conveniences, and experiences that they just wouldn't have had back then. And yet, when asked...
We've had this conversation many times, but basically, luxuries have become cheap and necessities have become expensive. So, like, I could go and buy myself a flat screen TV for $250 at Walmart, but I can't afford my rent. Whereas in 1985, you could afford to buy a home, but you would be lucky to afford one TV. A TV might cost as much as your rent does for the month. So you were wealthy if you had a hi-fi system, a TV, a VCR. That was considered to be like pretty impressive. But nowadays, it's everybody has a fucking Bluetooth speaker, but no one has a fucking home. And I don't know about you, but having food in a house is more important than having some Bluetooth bullshit.
Slightly more than half of you that responded still said you would prefer to live back then. So we are all remembering history through rose-tinted glasses, or has this doubling of economic output actually been totally irrelevant to average people? Well, as you...
By the way, chat, I just wanted to do an experiment where I put the Kaya Gate is crazy, Hassan didn't shock his dog as my, like, clickbait. And literally, you know, I'm just, you know what I mean? Just to see, is that working? How many people have been baited into this trap? I will talk about the schizophrenic internet in a second. I will talk about that. There's a Taylor Lorenz video talking about the schizophrenia shit. And it's important to understand, I was thinking a lot about Kayagate because it's really interesting, and there's like a bunch of confluent factors that make it, that give it legs. There's a bunch of and I hope Hassan doesn't become too depressed over this. I hope he doesn't become too depressed over this because of all the scandals he's had. This one is just, this is the one, like, as long as he doesn't crash out and do a pirate software, you know, then he'll be fine. Right, as long as I think one thing that might be helpful, and you know, this is just me spitballing, but one thing that might be helpful is for him to just make a heartfelt video about how much he loves Kaya and he appreciates how many other people care about animals. Like he gets, but those, you know, but it's just not true. Like I think that might not be the worst idea because normal people are gonna see that kind of shit and be like, this is like uncomfortable now. Like what I said, keep doing dog content and adding more pets to the stream like Maya or something. I could agree more with that. Caroline basically proved it wasn't a collar that could shock and she's used it before. Yeah, if you want to link that to me, I did hear that. I haven't seen the clip yet. If you want to link that to me, we could watch it later. As I said in the intro, I accidentally tuned into Stock Eye before coming here and he was shitting on Chatter's entertaining Kayagate, so I think we're good. I mean, the thing about Kayagate, here's the thing you got to understand, is the people that were behind it literally are the scum of the earth and they're completely irrelevant except for how they talk about Hassan. Do you understand that? Like Destiny is an irrelevant content creator now. Like H3H3 is an irrelevant content creator. Their only connection to relevance is through Hassan. And there's no way for us to strike back. I mean, Pedo Troll and the guy being sued for, you know, having child porn and doing revenge porn, like, but they're irrelevant. They're just weirdo, disgusting freaks. No one gives a fuck. Right? Whereas Hassan is like hanging out with Bernie Sanders and AOC and the next mayor of New York City and governor's candidates and senators. And he's affecting American politics in a really fundamental way by going his own way, by the way, not by kowtowing to the Democratic Party establishment and kissing their ass like the chorus people or Destiny wished and failed to do, but by going, like blazing his own political trail. Do you understand how insane that is? Did I discuss the Nussygate scandal? I've been behind Nussygate for 6 fucking years. I was the Nussygate pioneer. Gold is up to 4,200 today. God damn.
Might have guessed, our per capita production doubled, but incomes did not. Adjusted for inflation, median wages have increased by just 20% over the last 40 years, which is not great, but it's still not nothing. The median isn't skewed by the uber rich like the average is, and that's 20% after inflation, so we should theoretically be 20% better off. And we are.
Okay, but we aren't, because the way you calculate inflation is highly biased. Oh, this is what's very confusing for people. It's like, I think that when we're talking about how well the economy is doing, we should be looking at marginal prices. Not so, like, I'll give you an example. When you're talking about housing, your parents bought their house 10 years ago, right? Or more. And they're paying a mortgage that was affordable 10 years ago. And the monthly payment on that mortgage doesn't go up. So if they bought a house 10 years ago when it was 10 years cheaper and they had low interest rates, they're paying, you know, $800 a month. Their prices are not going to go up. So half of America owns their own home. So they're fucking, as long as they don't like refinance, they're locked in. It's golden handcuffs, but their housing costs are fixed. But the marginal housing costs are fucking insane. If you try to go and buy a house today, or you try to go rent a place now, the prices are insane. Your parents and the people that own their own home, they're insulated from that. So the affordability, so the when we say inflation adjusted, we're talking about the cost of living, which includes the people that have a fixed cost of living. And that's a lot of people, but it's not marginal people. It's not the people that are like, you can't enter into a home now. I mean, housing prices are still fucking ridiculous. Let me see if I can talk about this more substantively. There is a place called Lehigh County, and Lehigh County is the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. Actually, let's do Northampton because it's the same thing. There's two small cities in Pennsylvania called Bethlehem and Allentown, and they used to be fucking cheap. But when you look at their housing prices, the average housing price in Northampton County is low, $361,000, which is lower than the median price of a house in the US. Okay, or that's the average value. Okay, but if you look at the price curve since 2018, it's almost doubled since 2018. That's crazy. And if you go to somewhere that is like actually highly desirable, I wonder what Allentown or Allegheny County. Yeah, I'm curious. Let's just do Pittsburgh. Okay, the Pittsburgh, PA housing market. Wow, that's crazy. Pittsburgh used to have 1 million people in it, now has 400,000, and the housing prices have also doubled. Now let's talk about LA. LA's housing prices are peaking. Bubbling. They're coming off the highs. But if you go back to 2017, it was 550,000 for the average house. Now it's 871,000. Bro, the median sale price is 703,000 or 903,000, excuse me. The median list price is 952,000. Median meaning 50% of the houses are more than that.
But only in areas that don't really matter. Travel, technology, on-demand services, clothing, furnishes, and even food are all much more accessible today than they were back then, by a pretty wide margin. However, more essential items like housing, education, and healthcare have become far more expensive. So while you can, in theory, buy more stuff today with a perfectly middle-of-the-road income, it's not exactly the stuff that you need to build a comfortable life. The things that we wanted became cheap.
Oh, beautiful. There we go. He's explaining exactly what I said. Come on. If you look at the shit that actually matters,
far more expensive.
So toys, television, software, and cell phone services are gone down in price since 2000. But the things that have skyrocketed, new cars, housing, food and beverage, childcare, medical care, college textbooks, college tuition and fees, and hospital services.
So while you can, in theory, buy more stuff today with a perfectly middle-of-the-road income, it's not exactly the stuff that you need to build a comfortable life. The things that we wanted became cheaper, but the things that we needed fell out of reach. Which means, for a lot of people, their strongest tangible connection to economic prosperity is the car they are paying off over the next 84 months. But there is one
84 months? 84 months? 84? I remember when I was getting my first car, and my dad is like, never have a car loan that's longer than 3 years. Sometimes you can do 60 months, which is 5 years, but you better drive that car till the wheels fall off. And you better and if you can't put down, I think there was an old saying about like it being, what's the like rule of thumb for car payments? I don't remember. But like now people are doing 84 months. A 7-year car loan? A 7-year car loan. My dad also said you should buy used. Like, the thing that he taught me is you should buy a used car. This is no longer, this was the boomer rule of thumb. It no longer is the rule of thumb. So I'm just telling you what the boomers would have told you. You would buy, like, the best value for a car was a car that was 3 years old with one prior owner. And you would want a car that has less than 12,000 miles a year on average. So that's what you were looking for. That was the ideal car. One previous owner, low mileage, less than 12,000 miles a year, and who had kept up with the maintenance and had no accidents. That's the used car that you would go for. And there used to be a lot of those cars. Now they're not. Now there aren't. With new cars, if you get really good APR rates like 0%, so it makes sense to finance 60 months. Oh yeah, if they're giving you a 0% loan, then fine. But even then, that tells you there's a lot of price is high. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of margin in the price that they're giving you a 0% loan. You know what I mean? Like, how you exactly move around the profit. The average new car price is $50K. What? We're in such a we're so fucked. We are so fucked. Because the only good union we have is the auto workers union, and ours are so absurdly expensive and low quality. And it's like, oh no, American car companies are so bad. Oh no. Look no further than the automotive industry for the latest indication of a K-shaped economy for U.S. consumers. Cox Automotive on Monday reported the average price paid for a new vehicle last month topped $50,000 for the first time ever. My guess is poor people aren't buying cars anymore. Poor people aren't buying cars anymore, which is a sign of a recession. So people aren't buying those like entry-level vehicles. And prices are going up, which is also bad. Customers who can't afford a new vehicle are on a buying spree, while those on tighter budgets are staying out of the market. Today's auto market is being driven by wealthier households who have access to capital, good loan rates, and are propping up the higher end of the market. Oh no. Buyers committing to monthly payments of $1,000 or more accounted for 19.1% of all financed new car transactions in the third quarter. I remember when rent was less than this. Cox Keating noted that while tariffs have increased costs and reduced affordability, the record prices last month were driven by strong sales of all electric vehicles. Consumers rushed to buy EVs ahead of federal tax incentives of up to $7,500 ending at the end of September. Oh yeah, that happened. The EV market in the US is also fucked. We are so boned. The subcar prime loan market is collapsing. There was a major loan company that collapsed last week, and related companies like loan insurers are being run away from now. It's going underreported, but delinquency is above 2008 levels. My brother has an 80K pickup truck. He drives an 18-wheeler across the country 5 days a week. So he basically spends $1K a month for his truck to sit in the driveway all week. GM is taking a $1.6 billion hit from the expiring EV tax credits.
Much bigger factor, which is a
Cuddy McGill says, per your advice, Mike, I got an EV with the tax credit before it stopped. Basically cut my price in half. Like, I almost did. I almost bought a car because of that. But I decided not to because I don't fucking need another car. It's, you know, I don't need two cars. I don't want to sit on a car for a year that I don't use for $7,500. That seems very stupid. Because I'm going to get rid of my current vehicle next year because it's a lease. And I was like, maybe I should get a car. You know, the dealers seem like they're in deep shit. Maybe I could get a really good value on a vehicle. But then I was like, nah, fuck, this is stupid. I'm not. Fuck this. What kind of car was I looking to get? I don't know. I was looking at all the EVs and all of the like plug-in hybrids. But I just don't like anything. I just don't like anything, and it's not worth it. Although Lightnings were like super cheap. Lightnings were like super cheap with the tax credit. I almost thought about it, but then I was like, do I really want a Ford? Why did I lease instead of own? Because I expected the vehicle that I had to heavily depreciate, and it makes my taxes easier. So because when you lease like plug-in hybrids or whatever, or EVs back then, the leasing company would get the tax credit instantly to lower the price. And I expected cars to depreciate faster. Like, I didn't expect there to be residual value because the technology around electric vehicles and batteries is advancing. So I thought the residual value would be shit, and so I wanted the car company to eat it, which they have.
A lot harder to capture with these numbers, and it's how people have earned that money. Your consumption may not matter to the overall economy, but the overall economy hasn't made it easy to consume the things you want. But something that has lost its relevance,
the correct decision,
even faster, is the work we are doing. 40 years ago, most jobs garnered far more respect from both employers and employees. Most workers in skilled or semi-skilled professions stayed with their employers for a long time, and laying off staff or getting fired was a massive deal. Today, losing your job at some point is the expectation.
My plug-in Prius has barely depreciated. Like, that sounds like a really I think that if you absolutely do not care about cars at all and you just see them as a way of moving from point A to point B, a plug-in Prius sounds like the most efficient choice. But the problem with it is it's so aura-less. Like, I think there's aura in just not giving a shit about aura, but the Prius is just so bad. It's so bad. It's like, it actually breaks that frame for me where it's just like, oh no. But they're really, like, if you could, they're really efficient. Like, I don't think it's auraless. Other people do. It's like me kind of acknowledging that society believes a certain thing. You know what I mean? The Wrangler 4xe, the thing about Jeeps is they're very unreliable.
Of young workers treat it almost like a joke to make content out of, although this could be some kind of brain rot coping mechanism that I don't fully understand. Anyway, modern technologies have made a lot of jobs far more productive, but they have also made them far more user-friendly. As an example, a few decades ago, most large offices would have a small army of semi-skilled
I went to a Jeep dealership 2 years ago and they wanted me to get a Grand Wagoneer so bad, and I was like, bro, are you insane? Like, you don't, it's like, come on, man. Like, this is the upselling. I'm like coming in here going like, what is the, you know, what's the most efficient thing I could get? And they're like, no, why don't you get this? And I was like, that's like the biggest waste of money I've ever seen in my life. What do you think about Rivian? Overpriced. I just want a BYD. I just want Chinese EVs to come here. Like, if Chinese EV came to America, it would be a jover for Japan and American car manufacturers. I want my 500-mile range EV that goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds that has like every bell and whistle you've ever seen.
Secretaries to put together presentations and information for reports. Something like making a graph in the prescribed corporate style would take a lot of time, but also take some level of training to learn. Today, the company can just have an Excel template, and as long as someone can copy and paste 2 rows of data, they can do what used to be hours of work. Bank managers used to be highly respected professionals with a deep understanding of business finances, their local economy, and their extensive list of clients. Replacing one of these guys could take a full year.
Ford CEO is like, we've lost, it's Jover. Like, the Ford CEO is more of a China simp than me. And I've been a China simp for 6 years. I was a China simp before everybody. I was like, and I don't get enough credit for it, quite frankly. Somebody says, Comrade Beto 16 says no. You've been following me since 2023, sir. You don't know your shit.
Year of direct mentoring. Today, bank managers are glorified loan salesmen because credit reports and extensive electronic databases have taken the skill out of their jobs. Travel agents, junior analysts, stockbrokers, and an array of other jobs all mostly followed the same trend. These people became far more productive, but also far easier to replace. User-friendly and standardized technologies meant most people could get up to speed with a job within a week or two, as long as they knew how to use a suite of software. The promise or threat of AI, depending on who is asking, is that it could render your ability to work completely obsolete. But even if it simply continues this trend of standardizing roles, it will ultimately make workers more of a commodity that could be easily traded around an open market. Again, this raises the argument that if nobody can find a job anymore, then there will be nobody left to buy all of the stuff that companies are making. But once more, this is simply not true. Profit-motivated companies aren't going to hand over their valuable resources for nothing in return. For normal people, what they typically exchange for those goods and services is the hours in their day through something like a job, a contract, or maybe even working in their own business. But if these working hours are no longer valued by the market, then over time, companies are just going to start selling their products to people who can get their money through their investments, kind of like what is happening right now. In some tragic irony, this trend has gone so far that even multimillionaires are being pushed out of coveted goods and services by billionaires with more purchasing power.
I appreciate that because people don't think about the millionaires, right? Like, we get lumped in with the billionaires, but the millionaires really have it rough. Why are you guys saying f you?
Alright, so your consumption and your labor might not matter to the economy, but what about your ability to invest? It sounds like things are pretty sweet for those guys, right? Well, yes, except for the fact that investments into productive capital, like all of the technology that's making you really easy to replace, is even more consolidated than consumption and income. Increased high-interest consumer debt also makes a lot of investing done by everybody else counterproductive. According to data from the Fed, the top 10% of households own more than 93% of corporate equities in America, but those same households only account for 5.4% of non-mortgage consumer debt. It's great that more people are getting into the market, but if you are paying off a 20% APR car loan and putting $500 a month into Robinhood, you are not an investor. You are just really bad at allocating capital. Now, what all of this means is that most economic participants don't really participate in their own economy. In the past, when average people struggled, the economy struggled, and wealthy people riding on that economy struggled too. Today, we could very well be in a situation where the majority make up such an insignificant share of market activity that even severe problems for them can be effectively drowned out by the party being had by a very small handful of people. Now, as
Welcome to the new Gilded Age.
far as social cohesion is concerned, this isn't great. But for the economy, it gets worse. We could see a situation where unemployment rises dramatically, but the economy continues to grow, because all of those laid off people didn't contribute much to overall consumption or investment. In that case, taking action like lowering interest rates or giving out stimulus to help the unemployed would risk further inflating already overinflated asset markets that didn't feel the pain to begin with, which would only make this problem even worse. Even the Fed essentially admitted that it was increasingly hard to enact policy that would help ordinary workers without helping out wealthy asset owners even more. But it gets worse. Average people might not have that much skin in the stock market game, but the 10% that are doing all of the spending do. The reason they are spending so much in keeping entire industries alive is because they feel wealthy thanks to their booming portfolios. If these asset markets falter, there is not going to be much left to prop everything up, and to use a technical term, we are going to be absolutely fucked. Now, this is normally the point where I would say to put away the tinfoil hats, because this is all the result of broken incentive structures and flaccid regulations, rather than some kind of deeper conspiracy. But the reality is, this all sounds very familiar. In 2006, a series of reports were leaked from Citigroup's asset management team dealing specifically with ultra-high net worth clients. In these reports, they described a plutonymy, a combination of plutocracy and economy where economic growth is powered by and largely consumed by a wealthy few. In a plutonymy, there is no such animal as the US consumer or the UK consumer, or indeed the Russian consumer. There are rich consumers, few in number, but disproportionate in the gigantic income and consumption they take.
Wait a minute. Are we figuring out Marxism and dialectical materialism backwards? Are we doing this but with extra steps? Listen, you know, it turns out that nationality doesn't matter as much as wealth and class position. I'm gonna call this new. I'm a plutonomist.
The rest are the non-rich, the multitudinous many, but only accounting for surprisingly small bites of the national pie. Now, the actual intention of this report was to encourage Citigroup's wealthy clientele to invest in companies that catered exclusively to other wealthy clientele, because the analysts predicted that they would eventually be the only ones worth selling stuff to. And remember, this report was published way back in 2005. Now, Citi has tried really hard to scrape this report off the internet, so I am going to go ahead and leave a link to it below. It's a dense investment thesis, but also genuinely very scary. Now, of course,
and they were right. If you invested according to that, you won big.
There is still one way that you matter in the economy, and this report covered that.
This is something that I've said so many fucking times. Something that I've said so
many times. And leave a link to it below.
Which is the most class-conscious people on the planet are the rich. The rich people are the most class-conscious people on the planet. You want to learn Marxism? Don't go to fucking somebody who calls himself an anarchist on Twitter. Go talk to a capitalist. Then they'll be like, yeah, Marxism's real, but it's really based to be the rich, the evil rich people. Warren Buffett is like, yeah, there's a class war going on and we're winning.
Now, Citi has tried really hard to scrape this report off the internet, so I am going to go ahead and leave a link to it below. It's a dense investment thesis, but also genuinely very scary. Now, of course, there is still one way that you matter in the economy, and this report covered that as well. Whilst the rich are getting a greater share of the wealth and the poor a lesser share, political enfranchisement remains as was: one person, one vote. In plain English, the biggest risk to their clients was that votes were somewhat evenly distributed. Fortunately for them, we are really bad at spending them wisely. Go and watch this video next to see just the latest example of people clearly voting against their own best interests, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.
All right, chat. The How Money Works guy is going leftist. I guess maybe, I wonder if he would consider this leftist. I wonder if he would consider these stats to indicate that left-wing things are true, or if he would deny it. And I wonder on what On what basis would he deny it? We've done it, lads. Techno serfdom just a week away. I will eat the bugs and live in the metaverse just as the founding fathers intended. Nobody's living in the metaverse. Just acknowledging reality, but if someone tells him this is a Marxist view of the economy, he'll reject it. Of course he would. Are we going over the United States Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act? What did they get rid of? Wow. I mean, okay, they haven't ruled on anything. They just heard it. Conservative Supreme Court justice appears skeptical of key provision of Voting Rights Act. As oral arguments in the Supreme Court continue, the conservative justices who make up most of the bench appear sympathetic to the case that new Louisiana congressional maps, which added a second majority black district, violate the Constitution. At the heart of the case is Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits electoral maps that dilute the voting power of minority groups. Lawyers for the state of Louisiana, a group of non-African American voters, and the Trump administration say the court needs to do away with the 2024 map. If the court agrees, it would ultimately set a precedent that makes it considerably harder to bring redistricting lawsuits on the basis of race and undercut Section 2. So basically, they're just making shit up because the Constitution very clearly says that you could, the Congress can pass laws regulating districts. So they're just overreaching for the purpose of helping conservatives. It is time to reach a question this court has never reached and hold that Section 2 alone is no compelling interest for racially gerrymandering citizens like the appellees. The court should affirm and direct the district court to order a remedial map in time for the 2026 elections. I think there's been a lot of sky is falling rhetoric from the other side of this case. I'm not. I don't know what our legislator would do if the court rules in our favor. I don't think the sky is going to fall. Like, this is a thing about conservative intellectuals. This is a key factor. If you read a lot of like right-wing jurisprudence, which none of you do, which why would you? The thing that they do is they often say like, well, you know, if people disagree with this decision, then they will vote in the elections. And then they'll be like, you can politically gerrymander the elections. We don't have any fair way of evaluating if something's gerrymandered. So they'll like do things that result in a consequence and pretend that what they're doing doesn't result in that consequence.
On Wednesday, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear a second round of oral arguments in the case Louisiana v. Calais. In that case, the Supreme Court will be presented with another opportunity to further gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965, one of the most important pieces of legislation out of the civil rights movement, and one that attempts to get this country closer to our ideal of a pluralist democracy, an ideal which we've never fully met, but one which the Voting Rights Act helped us move closer towards. Chief Justice John Roberts has been foaming at the mouth for years, eager to have the opportunity to gut the 60-year-old law. Today, we're discussing the case and the devastating consequences.
This is honestly one of the key factors of the civil rights movement. This is abolishing the civil rights movement, really. Like, this is really repealing Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy.
That could follow if the conservative justices vote to remove key provisions meant to protect historically marginalized communities from further marginalization. Thank you to my partner on today's video, PDS Debt. Credit card debt sucks. PDS Debt. Here's what you need to know about Louisiana v. Calais. Louisiana is divided into 6 districts, each with its own representative in the House. In 2022...
Hey, Mike, remember when Dems refused to abolish the filibuster and pass the Voting Rights Act? It was actually the For the People Act, H.R. 1. And yes, and I was advocating that they should. In fact, I wrote on January 21st, 2021, I said, hey, this is what they need to do in order to protect us from Trumpism. And they did none of the things.
After the results of the 2020 census, Louisiana redrew its district map, resulting in only one majority black district out of the 6. This despite the fact that fully 1/3 of the population of Louisiana is black. A group of black voters sued and successfully argued that the new map violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, known to be deeply conservative, held in the voters' favor and ordered Louisiana to redraw its map in a way that doesn't conflict with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So in 2024, a new map was drawn. In drawing that map, the Republican Louisiana legislature was worried about the political outcome of the new map, and so worked to ensure that the new districts would strategically align with their political goals, especially with protecting the districts that elected Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and Julia Letlow, a Republican representative with a lot of power because she sits on the House Appropriations Committee. The more power your representatives have in Congress, the more power power, at least in theory, they have to take actions that benefit you in the state. So it was in the Republican legislature's best interest to ensure the political safety of those two representatives as they were redrawing the map to comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The new map included 2 majority black districts, kind of snaking through the middle of the state, including the major cities of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport, because historical discrimination in housing and white flight from the cities means that most of the black voting age population lives in those major cities, because we still live in a de facto segregated society, because we still exist within the consequences of centuries of slavery and marginalization. And if we look at the original Louisiana map with just 1 majority black district, you can see how the court reached the conclusion that this map was, in fact, a racial gerrymander. A racial gerrymander is when a state redraws district maps so as to dilute the vote of historically marginalized groups, usually black voters. They do this through 2 tactics, cracking and packing. Where possible, you divide up black populations so that they will be outnumbered by white voters, effectively ensuring they can never gain enough votes to elect someone they want. That's cracking. And then you draw a district where as many black voters as possible are included. That's packing. So you confine most black voters to 1 district or as few districts as possible, and then ensure that anyone outside that district will have their vote diluted by as many white people as possible. This is, of course, assuming that black voters and white voters vote similarly or as one block, which isn't always the case, but we'll get into that. In the original Louisiana map, District 2 was the single majority black district. That district includes New Orleans and Baton Rouge, effectively confining most black voters to 1 district and diluting the votes of all the rest. So 1/3 of the population had a voice in 1/6 of the districts. In the new map that was redrawn after the Fifth Circuit said the first map violated the Voting Rights Act, you can see the 2 districts that are now majority black, which span from Shreveport down to New Orleans. So then non-African American voters sued, saying that now they were being discriminated against because any consideration of race violates the 14th and 15th Amendments, equal protection, and voting rights provisions. Last year, the case came before the Supreme Court and they heard oral arguments. Then, on the last day of their term last year, instead of making a ruling, the Supreme Court announced that they would be rehearing the oral arguments this term and asked the parties to submit briefing on that constitutional question. As a refresher, the relevant part of the 14th Amendment says no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And the 15th Amendment says the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition. These amendments were passed in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War to explicitly address anti-black racism that had prevented black people from obtaining equal protection of the laws and from having a voice in their representative government. It was definitively not race blind. It was meant to right the wrongs of the horrific, centuries-long practice of human bondage in this country in order to attempt to give the people suffering from the long-lasting negative impacts of having endured horrific, inhumane treatment for centuries some semblance of equality. That is the spirit of those amendments. And the Voting Rights Act was meant to further solidify those rights enshrined in those amendments, because even after the 15th Amendment was passed, many states, especially states like Louisiana in the South, were continuing to infringe on black people's right to vote through things like horribly unfair literacy tests and poll taxes. None of these laws were meant to be race blind and were instead explicitly meant to fix centuries of abuse and inequality. But of course, white people weren't ready to go quietly into the night and accept that maybe they would have to cede some of their power. So the backlash against the amendments and against the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was swift. And today, the common conservative argument against the Voting Rights Act and protections against racial gerrymandering is that being race neutral and colorblind is the only correct, non-discriminatory stance to take. In effect, by taking race into consideration at all, you are discriminating against me, the white person, and that is against the Constitution. However, unfortunately, we do not live in a race-blind utopia where everyone has gained parity and the only difference in outcomes depends on how hard you work. If you can believe it, a few decades of laws protecting voting rights did not undo a few centuries of literal human bondage.
Well, not only that, the Republicans are actively stealing elections by making sure that they get 100% of the representatives when they have 55% of the vote, right? Like if every red state just returns Republicans because they gerrymander everything, and then so basically the only way you can break this is either by having such a massive wave, and the Republican Party has to be rejected to such an extent that it's outside of common modern norms. which is why, chat, it's more important that you get a lot of stuff done to democratize the country when you have a trifecta than it is to play along with norms that Republicans are eager and have shown they're willing to break, which is why I was completely right about not supporting Joe Biden.
Black people continue to live with the consequences of overt racism in housing, leading to less accumulated generational wealth, concentration into the cities, and low affordable housing stock, forcing them to live in less than ideal conditions, and then they get blamed themselves for the horrible conditions their landlords are responsible for, and so on and so on. Black people continue to live with the proven biases against them in hiring practices, violence against them enacted by the police, not to mention the day-to-day racism they have to endure from infancy through adulthood, whether it's the unconscionably high rates of infant and maternal mortality in Black populations compared to the rest of the population, or just the racist epithets thrown at people as they're trying to navigate the world. Not to mention intergenerational transmission of trauma, but Lord knows that's too many syllables for your average racist to understand. The point is, we have not arrived at a place where we can say race is no longer a factor and everyone is equal, therefore any consideration of race at all is racist against the other races. You don't get to rig the game for 200 years and then claim, well, now we've stopped discriminating, so everything is fine. And now if we keep talking about how we rigged the game for 200 years, that's actually discrimination against me. But that's exactly how the MAGA movement thinks. And so, returning to Louisiana v. Collide, you have a group of non-African American voters doing just that, saying this new map is discriminatory against me because it took my race into consideration. And now the Supreme Court has the opportunity to rule that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is unconstitutional and undo all the protections it affords, much like they did in Shelby County v. Holder in 2013 when the Supreme Court did away with pre-clearance, which is a provision of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act.
Right, and getting rid of pre-clearance led to what? More gerrymandering, more rigging, more suppression. The guys who came up with pre-clearance were completely correct, and because as soon as it was removed, the Republicans went right back to doing the things that they were forbidden from doing,
which required any new law regarding voting rights passed in states with histories of discrimination must first be approved by the Justice Department. Back in 2013, the court decided, hey...
Did you see Pritzker doesn't want a gerrymander? I think what he's saying here in defense of Pritzker is he's saying that it's bad, but he'll do it if he has to. It's like somebody talking about self-defense, right? Like shooting someone with a gun is generally bad. But if somebody attacks you and is threatening your life, well, then you would shoot them with the gun and self-defense. The thing that was bad and the thing that you don't want to do becomes necessary. I think that's what he's trying to say here, right?
For you, then, that worries me a little about 2026 is, you know, this redistricting fight keeps going on back and forth. There was news out yesterday that North Carolina, even though they have a Democratic governor, it's an arcane process. They're going to go around the governor there and try to squeeze out another seat. Missouri is doing that, your neighboring state. What is the status in Illinois? I've been seeing that some of the Illinois Democrats don't want to redistrict anymore, but there are 3 Republican seats in the state. So in theory, you could redistrict in a way that would help.
In general, I do not think mid-decade redistricting for political purposes is something that we should, any of us, any state should be doing.
We're not in general right now, though.
Or general times. I get it. And so that's why I have to say that if we're forced into it, which, you know, we're more and more, they're pushing us into it, right?
You are forced into it. Just do it.
When Missouri is looking at redistricting and Indiana is looking at redistricting and so on, we've got to consider it. But yeah, I mean, we have 14 Democrats and 3 Republicans from Illinois. Can we draw lines that look like more like 15-2? We can.
The problem that we have is that there's one political party. There is one political party. It's called the Republican Party. And then there is another group of politically ambitious people who are not Republicans. That is American politics in a nutshell. The Republican Party works collectively for the collective interests of the Republican Party and its donors and supporters, namely the rich. Whereas the Democratic Party is people who don't like Republicans. And that is fundamentally why the Republicans win, because the Democrat politicians are not interested in helping the Democratic Party, because the stronger the Democratic Party is, the stronger left politics will be. Now, I say this not because I like the Democratic Party as it is now. I want you to understand that the Democratic corporate party we have now is intentionally designed to make the Democratic Party weaker. And just empowering the Democratic Party is not the solution. The solution is actually empowering people that are left-wing ideologically. And they want the Democratic Party weak and with a small minority or majority, because that way they can effectively block any progressive policies. If like they win, if the Democrats won 60% of the seats and 60% of the Senate, that would be a disaster for the centrists who oppose progressive policy.
Okay, so, you know, if you go back 6 months ago, you go back to April, Kate Baldwin, what were we looking at? Well, we were looking at the Democrats with a very clear...
I do not think the Dems are going to win the House. Based on the current trends, I do not believe the Dems are going to win the House. And if that happens, if the Democrats do not take back at least one chamber of Congress, Donald Trump's fascism will be able to entrench itself.
Shot of taking control of the U.S. House of Representatives, according to the Kalshi prediction market odds. We saw him in an 83% chance, but those odds have gone plummeting down. Now we're talking about just a 63% chance, while the GOP's chances up like a rocket, up like gold, up from 17% to now a 37% chance. So we'll look like a pretty clear likely Democratic win in the House come next year. Has become much closer to a toss-up at this point, although still slightly leaning Democratic.
What's changed? What are you seeing?
Okay, what has changed? Well, why don't we just take a look at the national picture first? Take a look at voters and how they're feeling about things, and we can take a look at the generic congressional ballot. And I want to take a look and compare it to 2017, 2018, right? Because that's sort of the baseline. That was, of course, the first Trump term. That was where Democrats were sort of keeping pace. You go back to April, look at the generic congressional ballot. What you see? You see +3 Democrats in 2025 in April. You see +3 Democrats back in April of 2017. Now jump over to this side of the screen. What happens? Well, the Democrats are no longer keeping pace with the pace that they were setting back in 2017, 2018. You look back in 2017, you saw that the Democrats had leaped up to an 8-point advantage. I remember covering this. I remember a lot of folks, including myself, saying, you know what, Republicans look pretty decent right now in terms of the fact that they had the House, they had the Senate, they had the presidency, but things were likely going to flip. And I was looking for the same signs this year. The bottom line is it hasn't happened, Kate Baldwin. It hasn't happened. Democrats have stayed basically steady. They have fallen off the pace. Democrats were way out ahead back in 2017 on the generic congressional ballot. And now we're basically looking at Democrats ahead. But again, they are so far in back of the pace that they set back there. And so I think what a lot of folks are seeing, folks like myself, are saying, wait a minute, given what we might be seeing in redistricting, is this +3 going to be enough, Kate Baldwin?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. One change from that cycle is also this mid-decade redistricting effort that we've been covering so much. You add that in, and what do you get?
Okay, so we add that, and we take a look at the national picture, but then we, of course, taking a look at the state legislators, right? They are potentially changing things, and there are two things that are going on here. First off, net mid-decade redistricting gains. If both sides max out at this point, there are more Republican gains possible than Democratic gains. Yes, the Democrats might try to counter a Texas and a California, but you go along in the different states, and basically Democrats run out of room where Republicans are able to gain and gain and gain. If both sides max out, we're probably looking at a GOP gain of +7 House seats. That doesn't even take into account the potential gutting of the VRA that is right now going to be in front of the Supreme Court. If you add that in, you could be looking...
The Voting Rights Act.
What? Yes, exactly right. The Voting Rights Act. If you add that in, then you could be looking about adding 10, 12, 15, 17 on top of this 7 seats. So I think a lot of folks like myself are looking at this. We're seeing, hey, wait a minute. Those national polls are Democrats are not gaining the way that we expected. Then you add in the fact that the state legislators are adding potentially more GOP seats like they've already done down in Texas, like they've done in Missouri. And then you add in the potential gutting of the VRA, and all of a sudden it becomes much more difficult for Democrats.
By the way, chat, I want to show you something. If the Supreme Court guts the Voting Rights Act majority-minority requirement, the Republicans could gain 12 seats in the South, eliminating Democratic representation in Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi, and Louisiana completely, as well as South Carolina, while sufficiently minimizing it in Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina to only a handful of seats clustered around the largest cities. I've said this was going to happen for a long time. In fact, this is another, unfortunately, Mike was right moment. High water mark. Hold on, let me, I have a specific tweet that I'm thinking about. Okay, maybe it's like that, high water mark. Hold on. God, the search is now bad. It's like, high water mark. I've literally said this. Fuck, what did I put it? What did I put it? Hold on, let me do advanced search. I literally said, oh, did you find it? What the fuck? It's why your belief that Republicans are in trouble could be more misplaced. It's the Dems who are at their absolute high water mark. Who was I replying to? Why did it not search? I said high water mark. Why did that not return? Who was I replying to? Who was I replying to? And this was November 17th, 2022. Do you remember all your tweets? No, I have a decent memory of my commentary over the years. I just believe in speaking reality. Democrats have a narrowing window of enacting any kind of structural change. The Senate and its structure are soon going to be unwinnable outside of major realignments. The 2021 Dem trifecta is probably a high watermark for the rest of the 2020s. Oh, see what I mean? I said high watermark twice, and it was dead right. And their search didn't work. What the fuck? How do you get good with recall memory? It's called, unfortunately, genetics, I think, is a large component. Okay, hold on. Oh, I was arguing with an anarchist. This is fucking based. Holy shit, losing the House is winning now. The GOP came out with fewer seats than they began in the Senate and won a historically small House majority while inflation was at 8%. It was a terrible year for them. This isn't a debate. You don't know everything. Dobbs was one of the most impactful decisions in a generation, perfectly designed to energize the Democratic base, and they lost the House. From 2032 to 1994, the Democrats controlled the House for 58 of 62 years. Midterm dips didn't matter because they continued to keep control. Given how unpopular Biden was, how people perceive the economy and historical midterm trends, how is only losing 8 seats not an amazing performance? So it's amazing in the sense that the party overperformed media expectations. Amazing in terms of drastically outperforming historical midterm fundamentals. That's what people were like coping that 2024 was going to be good for the Dems because the Dems only lost the House by a little bit instead of a lot. And I was like, bro, we just lost abortion rights. This is a huge right-wing victory that's incredibly unpopular. That's not a good sign for 2024, dummy. Was there any historical contingency that happened in 2022 that you could think might explain that? Overperformance of expectations says more about your expectations than it does with anything related to politics. The bottom line is that they lost their narrow majority and therefore the ability to enact policy. Covering the spread doesn't mean you get to hoist the trophy. They aren't virtually guaranteed to take the House back. LMAO what? 2023, I said they weren't going to take the House back. Oh, looks like I was right. Mike is just like every, by the way, suspended, post-deleted, suspended account. Do you see how my analysis holds up and it's correct and everybody who yells at me is just fucking out of here? I don't have first-hand knowledge of that race, but I've seen it happen before, specifically at PA1 and NA2 in 2018. I've seen a number of centrist Dems outright campaign for Republicans. Happens all the time. Wouldn't surprise me. By the way, I predicted Cuomo. Here's me predicting Cuomo again. You speak of generalities and ask for specifics, get them, and then complain I'm talking to specifically. Seems like you're doing a bit of projection there. But it's okay. You could be satisfied with 2020 and 2022. I think that's insane. But whatever keeps you motivated. Guys, unfortunately, Mike was right again. It's because you're speaking as if there was some broad failure, and then when you give your specifics, you're pointing out a couple outliers which aren't indicative of any broad failure. Broad failure was they lost the House of Representatives, bro! The broad failure was the loss of the House of Representatives and therefore the ability of the Democrats to stop fascist gaming of the system, which they gave up, dummy, and now we're living in the consequences. These anarchists, man. Anarchists are incredibly small. Like, look at this guy. If I said that Philadelphia Eagles played like shit during the game, and then you asked me how they played like shit, and my response was their kicker missed 3 important kicks, that would be kind of dumb to say those 3 kicks were representative of the entire team's performance. But it was, dumb fuck, because if you have field goals, it means that you didn't finish the drive, meaning the drive stalled. Meaning the offense failed to drive down and score touchdowns or failed in the red zone, which means that they were relying on the kicker to recover some points. And then the kicker missing the kicks is a huge swing. That's a 6-point swing, you dumb fuck. So in other words, the kicker missing 3 kicks is indicated, and that losing the game for the Eagles is indicative of them playing like shit, dumbass. Fuck, you're stupid. Holy shit, this is what I'm talking about. Jesus Christ. Really good analogy. The Democrats outgained the Republicans with yardage, but they didn't score as many points. Sure, the Republicans hoisted the trophy, but hey, our QB had a better passer rating. This is Democrat politicians in a nutshell. Our Democrat, it's like, yeah, well, we had more yardage and more time of possession, but yeah, there were some turnovers, but we were the better football team. It's like, no, you win the game based on who has more points, dumb fuck. Jesus fucking Christ, I'm losing it. I'm sorry for going over this old debate that has 2 likes, but the point of this is, I saw this all coming, and I tried to warn people that if we did not fix these problems when we had the power, it was the end. What trophy have the Republicans been lifting nationally since 2022 exactly? What trophy have Republicans been lifting nationally since 2022? West Virginia versus EPA, Dobbs, Kennedy versus Bremerton School District, Carson v. Macon. These are judicial decisions that have nothing to do with the controls of the legislative branch. Do you need to retake Civics 101 class or something? Oh my God. This guy doesn't know that you could pass laws to restrict the court's jurisdiction. This guy doesn't know you could pass laws and protect rights that are lost. He thinks that the government is just like random things happening and that one thing doesn't affect the other. Judicial decisions affect the legislative elections, dummy, which is why the Republicans have been making rulings on the Voting Rights Act, and they have legalized gerrymandering, and they legalized money, you dumb fuck, with Citizens United. So the fact that you ignore the judiciary's effect on the legislative elections and you don't use your powers to counter it is why we're fucked. Honestly, I could give you a Civics 101 lesson if you've never heard of judicial stripping or codification of rights. GTO is an inherently moving target, my guy. No, it's not. It's called game theory optimal play. It means it's always optimal. It means it's guaranteed winning play. That's not what game theory optimal means. You stupid fuck. It's not a moving target. It is the theoretically best way to play the game, no matter who your opponent is. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of game theory optimal, you dumb fuck. It means you play a perfectly unexploitable strategy, dumbass. Jesus fucking Christ. Why do people say stuff to me? I don't get it. I don't get it. I just believe it's speaking reality. Democrats have a narrowing window of enacting any kind of structural change. The Senate and its structure are soon going to be unwinnable outside of major realignments. The 2021 Dem trifecta is probably a high watermark for the rest of the 2020s. I was dead fucking right, and that's unfortunate. Oh, I think this is an Editor Mentum reply, right? This is an Editor Mentum reply, right? Like, I was replying to him, right? That's who. So he blocked me, I guess, and he deleted the original post. We really don't have to relitigate an argument on Twitter from 2 years ago. It's because it's important to understand that I explained that this was all going to happen. I know you have ADHD and you can't keep track of the arguments that we're having. Basically, Republicans are about to rig the fucking House of Representatives so they can't lose.
Democrats to gain, especially given that they are not keeping up with their 2017-2018 pace.
And as you said, that also makes it difficult to compare it to past.
My colleague at work was talking about Hamas doing executions, but I don't see any posts by Al Jazeera, Middle East Eye, which makes me think this is Western bias. There's always, I mean, this is literally a psyop, basically social media post shit. I have no idea what is happening on the Gaza and the ground because Western journalists are not allowed in by Israel. So any reports that you're getting from there are just, especially accusing them of executing people. I don't know what's happening there as far as after the end of the ceasefire until there's actually a independent journalism that's allowed, or Palestinians are given the right to speak on their own behalf.
Examples in history, because this is such a different new landscape that we're looking at,
It's a different new landscape, and we're not quite sure how much.
Mike, Dropsite said they are executing collaborators. Okay, then that's a pretty reliable source. And by the way, like, all revolutionary violence or resistance violence, punishment of collaborators is frequently a feature of it. And it doesn't mean I like it. I wish there was a properly constituted court under the Palestinian state. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see summary executions. I don't agree with that as a general policy. I think that's bad.
Democrats will have to be ahead in the National House vote in order to gain control.
All right. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
So the Democrats are literally just allowing themselves to be deleted and turned into a rump party, which is something that I was trying to prove. You know, this is the problem that we now see. We see a Democratic Party that is just uninterested in power for itself.
Hey, guess what? We've reached a place where we no longer need to control against these races. They've done their time. We've all moved on. And now our society is just and equal. Isn't that grand? And they did away with preclearance. And instantaneously, within hours and days and months, those historically racist states, well, what do you know? They passed new racist anti-voting laws. Weird. It's almost like a few decades of the Voting Rights Act and undo a few centuries of literal human bondage. Wild. We literally chained human beings to auction blocks and sold them to the highest bidder for centuries. We shoved them into boats and stacked them on top of each other like cattle. And then we made a thriving economy worth billions of dollars on the back of their free labor. Labor we never paid for. Labor that created wealth that white people still benefit from today. And then we fought a war and said, hey, you're free now, but no, you can't live there. You can't live there. No, you can't have a voice in your representation. No, you can't go to that school. No, you can't get a mortgage. No, you can't drive through that town after dark. No, you can't expect to live through the birth of your child. No, you can't get that job. But in MAGA world, we need to move on from that. Like, literally, why do you keep talking about it? Why do you hate your country so much? We passed an act about it. It's been 60 years. We moved on. Can't you just focus on the future? And the non-African American litigants in Louisiana v. Kalai are boiling it down to an oversimplified argument. Race was taken into consideration when drawing this map with 2 majority black districts. That violates my equal protection under the 14th Amendment as a white person, and my right to not have my vote abridged on account of my race as a white person under the 15th Amendment. But that argument is disingenuous. There's a reason we look to the intent of the people who passed a law in order to determine how to interpret a law. Lawmakers cannot possibly anticipate every scenario that could possibly occur in relation to a law they are writing. It's not possible, and even if they tried, it would lead to writing of absurdly long, difficult to understand laws, and it would take so much longer to get those laws passed, and they still wouldn't fully be able to anticipate every possible instance when the law could be implicated. Because of this, we need the courts to step in when there's a controversy and tell us what the law means and how it is applied to this specific unforeseen set of facts. There are many ways courts do this, some of which depend on the case, and some depend on the judge's ideology. You can look to the plain meaning of the words today. What does the dictionary say they mean? You can look to the meaning of the words at the time they were written. What does history tell us they were supposed to mean? And you can look to the underlying discussions on the congressional record and in other primary source documents that can help indicate, based on how these lawmakers discussed this law, this is likely how they would come out on this question, or they addressed this question in their debates, and this is likely how it would come out, etc. Each of these various modes of interpretation are helpful. In my opinion, strict adherence to any one of them is short-sighted because sometimes the way a word was defined when it was written doesn't square with today's reality, and so on. All laws are flexible and debatable and open to interpretation. If they weren't, every lawyer would be out of a job. Anyway, all that to say, it is deeply important to look at the context of laws and the Constitution to understand what the meaning is when applied to a set of facts, especially in this context where we are still very much dealing as a society with the consequences of slavery and racism. And the fact is that the 14th and 15th Amendments were not colorblind amendments. They were passed during a very specific part of our history, immediately after the Civil War, to right the wrongs of centuries of human bondage, and they ought to be interpreted as such as it applies to the Voting Rights Act. We have not solved the issue of racism in this country, and we will in many ways never fully heal the wounds that that level of horrific violence causes to a society. There are people alive now whose grandparents were enslaved by white people. White people don't get to turn around and tell them, all right, let's wrap it up, it's time to move on now. But the litigants in Louisiana v. Kalai would have us believe that the writers of the 14th and 15th Amendment had them in mind when they were writing the amendments, and that their right to not give black people an equal voice in voting is equal to or actually supersedes the right of black people having an equal voice in voting. That in blocking their right to discriminate against black people, the court is discriminating against them. They are also trying to paint a picture that the Voting Rights Act and the subsequent legislation and cases interpreting it create a simple rule where states are allowed to consider race when drawing district lines in favor of black people, but not in favor of white people. The reality is that there is a complex web of guidelines and restrictions when it comes to drawing district lines under the Voting Rights Act that help ensure that the very thing I've been arguing for, that historical and present day contexts are taken into consideration.
Honestly, the real solution is we have to reform our political system. The United States Senate should become advisory or a formal position like the House of Lords. The House of Representatives should become a proportional multi-member district, and there should be a proportional aspect, and then there could be a geographic districts, but the geographic district should be multi-member. And the representation in Congress should equal the vote percentage. Like this system is entirely riggable. And so they're rigging it.
The maps being drawn are true.
But the problem is, like, Barack Obama wants the Republicans to win. Like, do you guys understand that? Like, Joe Biden wants the Republicans to win. None of the people who have power in our society are going to go to the people and say, hey, I am a former president. America's democracy is broken. We need to do a constitutional convention. We need to do a massive amendment. We need to start focusing on fixing our broken government. They don't believe in that. They want a stronger Republican Party.
Equal and fair to try to counterbalance the overt racism exhibited by states for centuries with regards to voting. It's not a simple blanket, we just give black people as much power as possible. For example, a case called Thorburg v. Jingles established what are called the Jingles factors for bringing a Section 2 claim of voter dilution. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund created a helpful primer, which I'll link in the sources. Those factors are, quote, 1, the minority group must be sufficiently large and geographically compact to constitute a majority in a single-member district. 2, the minority group must be politically cohesive. And 3, the majority must vote sufficiently as a bloc to enable it usually to defeat the minority's preferred candidate. After considering all those factors, the court must then determine whether the plaintiffs bringing the claim have sufficiently proven, based on a totality of the circumstances, that minority voters, quote, have less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. Additionally, courts tend to also require plaintiffs to show that 1, the challenged practice imposes a discriminatory burden on members of a protected class, meaning that members of the protected class have less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. And 2, the burden must in part be caused by or linked to social or historical conditions that have or currently produce discrimination against members of the protected class. This all must be proven by plaintiffs in order to win a case claiming that their vote is being diluted. There are clear, high bars that must be passed in order to balance the competing interests of the state, of white people, of people of color, with the aim of actually ensuring equality, taking into consideration the centuries of inequality, and not simply to say, well, we're all equal now, let's not think of the past. Why can't we all just move on? And on Wednesday, the Supreme Court will have the opportunity to hear oral argument and make their own determination as to whether to take all of the previous precedent, the spirit of the laws, and the context of history into consideration, things that they claim to strongly adhere to in cases that benefit the conservative cause, or to decide it's time we all moved on from this whole race thing and just pretend everything's fine. You can listen to oral arguments live as they happen. They're around 9:30 a.m. DC time at the Supreme Court website or on C-SPAN. Sometimes the way the justices question the lawyers is pretty indicative of their feelings on the matter. And like I said, Chief Justice John Roberts seems poised to push for doing away with Section 2 on the grounds that it's unconstitutional. According to the Associated Press, Roberts, quote, has long had the landmark civil rights law in his sights, from his time as a young lawyer in the Reagan-era Justice Department to his current job. Roberts wrote the majority opinion in Shelby County v. Holder, the case that gutted preclearance, saying, quote, our country has changed, and while any racial discrimination in voting is too much, Congress must ensure that the legislation it passes to remedy that problem speaks to current conditions. We're all fixed. Nothing to see here. But that being said, just in 2023, in a case called Allen v. Milligan, the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, held that a similar map in Alabama did violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, with Roberts writing that Alabama was attempting to remake our Section 2 jurisprudence anew. In that case, Roberts and Kavanaugh surprised us all when they joined the liberal justices in finding against Alabama's map in that case. That could happen again. However, the fact that this case is being reheard this term indicates the court might be ready to shake things up, because they don't tend to do that very often. And in the Alabama case, they were looking at whether the map violated the Voting Rights Act, not whether the Voting Rights Act violates the Constitution. It could be that this re-argument more properly tees up the Voting Rights Act for a thorough constitutional question, giving the conservative justices a good whack at undermining the whole thing. After Wednesday's oral arguments, the justices likely won't issue a ruling for a while, though Louisiana has elections in April and so have asked the court to make a decision as soon as December or January in anticipation of that election. They could hold very narrowly that in this instance, this particular map from Louisiana isn't a good map, but the state can go and try to create a different one that more complies with Section 2 and the Constitution. Or they could make a broader ruling saying, actually, this isn't about this specific map. This is about how the entire Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is actually in violation of the 14th and 15th Amendments, and strike down the whole thing. A piece by Richard Hasen, professor of law at UCLA for Slate, lays out what would happen if the Supreme Court decides against the Voting Rights Act in this case. If the Supreme Court moves forward with this interpretation, it would be a sea change to voting rights law. It would be an earthquake in politics and make our legislative bodies whiter and our protection for minority voters greatly diminished. Even if the court less drastically says that Section 2 cannot be used to require the second congressional district in this case, such a superficially more minimal ruling would mean the quick unraveling of most Section 2 districts, because if the facts in Louisiana don't justify drawing a second district, most other Section 2 claims would fail too. Quote, any decision to strike down what's left of the Voting Rights Act could kick off the start of a new civil rights movement and more serious talk of Supreme Court reform in the midst of crucially important midterm elections. Justices fundamentally hostile to the rights of voters place the court increasingly at odds with democracy itself. That is what's on the line this Wednesday during oral arguments. I'll be back with a new episode on Wednesday, and I'll let you know in that episode if there's any tea leaves to read in how the justices acted during arguments. Given the track record of this current court, I am not holding my breath for it to be good news. If you want the joy of supporting independent media, consider clicking the big join button here on YouTube or joining my Patreon community at patreon.com/Legia Miller, where you'll find all of these episodes completely ad-free. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Mark, Sarah Shelby, Art, David, Latranger, Lucas, Thomas Johnson, and Tay. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. And if you like this episode, you'll like the one from Friday about Russell Vogt, the world's most boring villain. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Oh no! How long have we been in share stream? Sorry about that, chat. You know, TwitchCon is tomorrow. Who's going to TwitchCon? Is anybody going? Who's going? I'll probably go. They're desperate enough. They might even like treat me nice. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, chat. This is another Mike was right moment. Months and months and months ago, I messaged Twitch. I emailed them and I was like, hey, this year, the vibes are kind of off. What are you guys doing for like security? Are you enhancing security? Because I feel like there's a growing number of streamers that are a little bit nervous about coming to TwitchCon. And they were like, they basically gave me the polite brush off where it was like, we are not enhancing it further, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. Then Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Everyone canceled. Now, large streamers do have security. And I was just like trying to get them to enhance it further, and they didn't. And so now all their biggest draws are not going. Way to fucking go, idiots. Do you think there will be people protesting, harassing Hassan? He's not going. Gavin Newsom is going? Oh, shit. Yes. That means I probably will be able to confront him in person. Chat, I solemnly swear to be myself at TwitchCon. Stream it, please? No. There are places where you're not allowed to stream. At the elite of TwitchCon, streaming is disgusting. That's the thing that's funny about TwitchCon, is it's like the more you climb the ladder of Twitch, the more they dislike you streaming there. Isn't that interesting? You can record with your phone? No, absolutely not. TwitchCon is going to be a bad house with no Kings protest? Oh, fuck. I might have to stream that. That sounds like fun. Maybe not. Streaming isn't allowed at the streaming convention. No, it is, but that's where the peasants are. You're allowed to stream the peasants. You're not allowed to stream the Twitch elite or, you know what I mean? Like, no. That's what I'm trying to explain. All right, well, I'll probably be down there. Who knows? Keep an eye out for me, chat. Keep an eye out for me. You can say hi. Don't feel shy. No Kings is still a thing? Yeah, they're doing another one. I want you to understand something, chat. I do not criticize liberals for being liberal protesters. Like, I don't think that is a very smart thing to do. I think it's schizo internet my brain. If liberals want to go out there and protest, I'm in favor of that. Go for it. I also recognize that it's a liberal protest, which means they're going to try to follow rules. The goal of the liberal protest is so that they learn the rules are unfair. I want them to be radicalized by how they are mistreated and they are contained and how they are silenced. All right. let's watch this. Let's watch this Kaya dog collar Taylor Lorenz video. I'm so sorry for doing more Kaya content, but I had a realization. I had a realization today, is that while the Kaya stuff did hit and did go mega viral and was annoying and made Hassan feel bad about himself, the fact that they won't let it go is helping accelerate the death of the meme.
So everyone right now is up and
they're accelerating the death of the meme. And so, like, the more they push it, the more they complain about it, the more they keep talking about it, the more it's annoying it's going to get for normies, and the less salience it's going to get. It's like overplaying a good song. You know, a song gets popular, but then you hear it every fucking where all the time, and then it starts to get annoying. And you're like, God, why are people playing this? Shut the fuck up. So I'm kind of embracing that. I'm like, yes, let's drive the Kaya shit into the ground. Let's make it annoying to normies.
arms thinking that Hassan shocked his dog.
You could see him reach over, hits the thing, the dog fucking yelps.
Initially, even Hassan's community was starting to question, did he just shock Kaya? Did he just use a shock collar on stream?
He zaps the poor little dog for getting up, and then he says, why'd you make me do that?
So what did he just do to that dog?
Today, I want to talk about something that's been all over my feed lately and has been driving me absolutely crazy. For the past week, the internet has been dominated by the conspiracy theory that Twitch streamer Hassan Piker abused his dog using a shock collar during a Twitch live stream. There is, to be clear, zero evidence that his dog Kaya was even wearing a shock collar during that live stream. Kaya is pictured wearing a canvas collar with a little AirTag holder in it in the original clip, where she yelped once after seemingly catching her nail on the dog bed. This led to a bunch of internet-pilled psychos crawling through hours and hours and hours of footage, claiming that Piker secretly abuses his dog. Their evidence of this is not even the footage where Kaya yelps. It's that in totally different clips, where she doesn't even appear to be in distress at all, she's wearing a collar with a small green light on it. Piker showed this collar on stream. It's an electronic vibration collar with zero shock capabilities. Attempting to debunk this conspiracy that Hassan abuses his dog, however, has become largely impossible. First of all, you can't prove a negative, which everyone pushing this crazy conspiracy theory, by the way, actually knows. It would be like asking me to prove that I've never punched someone. Again, you can't prove a negative. After Hassan revealed the vibration collar on stream, bad actors attempted to leverage the fact that he put a small piece of tape on the back to conceal his phone number, which is like written in Sharpie on the back of the little vibration box, as evidence that he somehow secretly modified and soldered down shock collar prongs, something that would basically be like impossible to do, like impossible. I'll pause here to say that I've met Kaya IRL. I have never seen her in a shock collar. I've spoken to people who have walked Kaya, babysit Kaya, probably spent hundreds of hours with this dog. And
the thing is, like, this is not about reality. It's not about truth. It's not about, everything can be hand waved away, which is the entire point of this.
According to everyone I spoke to, in 0 instances has she ever been abused. Not a single guest on Piker's Twitch stream in the years and years and years that he's had Kaya has said that they've ever seen
I love her so much, dude. I'm sorry, but she is the, like, puppy Kaya undefeated. I'm so glad. Hey, Christian, how you doing? Kaya is a perfect happy angel. She really is. How you doing, buddy? I assume you're going. We should hang out and grab dinner this week or next week, whatever. It doesn't matter. Let me know. Kaya was honestly one of my favorite puppies of all time. Also, because she's a mutt, she's so interesting and unique. You know what I mean? Everybody should watch Christian if you want the tea. If you want the tea, you should watch Cringe Chin, because that's me. I am a connoisseur. Let me VIP you too, since you're here. What was I saying? She's a mutt. Mutt is a slur. No, it's not. It's a description of how the dog was bred. If a dog is not intentionally bred, and they are created through the natural coupling of two dogs without intention, it's a mutt. Now, if I called her a cur, now that's a pejorative. That's the dog slur. That's the dog C word. Okay? Cur. C-U-R. LSF is a very weird sub. They're obsessed. Yes, they're botting, guys. They're botting the shit and they're psychotic.
Piker mistreat Kaya.
It's not a shock collar. I've seen that collar. I've used that collar before.
I've babysat that dog.
And the only reason more influencers aren't speaking out publicly is because the people perpetuating this vicious harassment campaign are threatening them into silence. Big-time influencers are having their brand deals jeopardized and facing serious business consequences for even suggesting that they might publicly come out in support of Hassan. It's actually happening on a scale that I have never seen before.
Look at how they're botting this shit. I think this is a misreading of the situation between Hamas. Hamas wants him out because they have faith he would be able to unify Palestinians under a political umbrella that includes them. It's Barghouthi is the name. And animal abuse is wrong. No one should electrically shock an animal to force it to stay on screen. Mindless Assad hatred appears to be giving people schizophrenia because what is this? His most recent reply. He's an animal abuser. We all saw the videos. Why are you defending him? He's talking about Vision Pro. Okay. Who got scared? Raise your hand. He is an animal abuser. 9 clips and counting. Not sexy. What the? Please apologize for abusing Kyle. This guy is literally posting about this for hours and days on end. Your defense of animal abuse on the Fearhead podcast was completely unforgivable. We will never forget it. Why did you defend animal violence? That's not English. Why don't you just admit that you abused your dog and then lied about it? These guys are actually schizophrenic. They're actually schizophrenic. I'm sorry, chat. I just wanted to pop open that guy and see how often he was replying and talking about that. Did I accidentally close the video? Where the fuck is it? Okay, there it is. Sorry, I'm stupid.
Multiple journalists in group chats, by the way, have been talking to people of like wanted to report out this story, but other influencers are so scared of the harassment and abuse that they might get that they don't even want to speak on the record with their name. And yes, I know also, by the way, that making this video will definitely just put a target on my back, but I don't care because the people perpetuating these conspiracy theories already hate me. Everyone who spends any modicum of time with Hassan knows how much he loves that dog. Kaya is one of the most pampered and spoiled dogs in Los Angeles. Who knows why Kaya yelped that like one day, but she is literally a dog.
They care about dogs being shocked, but they don't give a fuck about the lifting of federal regulation of shocking young gay people into being straight. Give me a break. Obviously, they don't care. They also don't care about dogs. Like Destiny has said, like, isn't there a weird clip of Destiny talking about how dogs shouldn't have any moral worth? And basically saying they could be tortured and killed for the pleasure of any, like he's a fucking weird guy. I don't want to misquote him. So if somebody could find the video, scratch that last part. I don't know if he actually called for them, but I think he said they had no human worth or no moral consideration. And his grandmother used to kill their dog every year. They would get bored of the dog and she would kill it. Literally. Or like they're psychotic. They're psychotic. Somebody give me those clips, please. He also said he said that bestiality should be legal because the Trump bailout of Argentina is doubling. Yeah, I saw that.
I grew up with dogs, multiple dogs that worked as therapy dogs actually in hospitals. And sometimes if a dog steps on their foot or catches their nail wrong or something or just gets startled, they'll yelp. Kaya's also literally only yelped like that once, like in all of Hassan's years of streaming. It's not like this is some regular thing. And also
she wasn't actually injured. No one gives a fuck. Nobody gives a shit. Like, because again, she was not injured. The dog was not injured. It's like people are learning that dogs make noises sometimes.
Crazy to me too is shock collars, which are commonly used in dog training. They're not like tasers. They usually give like a crawling sensation on a dog's skin. But the idea that Piker is somehow secretly abusing his dog and shocking Kaya until she's in pain repeatedly is just completely made up in people's heads. This is a dog that lives a life I guarantee you is significantly better than anyone watching this video. The idea that dozens of high-profile guests on Piker's stream and every single person who's ever spent any meaningful time with Kaya would all be involved in some secret, years-long, elaborate cover-up is insane. Like, literally, if you believe this, you have lost touch with reality. The entire thing is the most idiotic and deranged conspiracy theory that I think I've ever covered. Like, this is literally like, it's QAnon flat earther level shit. Nevertheless, the story has been weaponized by the far right to launch a multi-platform smear campaign against Piker. Laura Loomer has posted relentless.
The purpose of this drama is to delegitimize Hassan's messaging. Yeah, it's called attacking someone's ethos. The Greeks understood this. I talk about this all the time. There's ethos, pathos. This is like a Mike from PA, oftentimes repeated. This is basic education. None of you got it, so I'm doing it for you. Okay? Ethos is used to convey the writer's credibility and authority. When evaluating a piece of writing or persuasion, video, whatever, the reader must know if the writer is qualified to comment on the issue. The writer can communicate their authority by using credible sources, choosing appropriate language, demonstrating they have fairly examined the issue by considering the counter argument, introducing their own professional, academic, or authorial credentials, introducing their own personal experience with the issue, and using correct grammar and syntax. Basically, what they're saying here is, why should you trust someone? You have to establish ethos. So if somebody is a fucking dog abuser, psychotic criminal, then people are like, I don't want to even listen to that guy because he's so morally depraved, I can't trust him. That's what they're trying to do. Because for us, we all want to skip to this, especially if you're on the spectrum. Like, if you're on the spectrum like me, you're like, give me the logos, baby. Give me the reason, the logic. To use logos, the author makes clear logical connections between ideas. It includes the use of facts and statistics. Yes, give me the facts. Give me the logic. Oh, yeah. Ooh. That's what you want. But in order for this to be accepted by a normal neurotypical person, they have to have this. And then pathos is the appeal to emotion. That's where you connect a person's credibility with their arguments, and then you bring it home by making it an emotional appeal that connects to the humanity of people. That's how you make arguments, chat. Ladies and gentlemen, the Greeks figured it out. And so when you're trying to discredit someone, you attack them on these various angles, right? Attacking their logos means you contradict their logical arguments with counter examples or examples of where they failed to establish the conclusion, the weaknesses in their axioms and their syllogisms. All right. Pathos is you appeal to other emotions and say how your emotions are more, more intense or more important than theirs. Like, oftentimes people, if somebody has sympathy, but then you make them mad, anger can overwhelm that. Like, anger can overwhelm sympathy. And then, of course, ethos is you just counter a person's credibility. You attack their credibility so the people shouldn't listen to them at all. What's up, Dick's Theory?
I think that if you want to be a meat eater, okay, listen, I think that if you want to be a meat eater, that's a base position, and that's totally fine, 100%, okay? But you have to shut the fuck up when dentists go and hunt lions, and you can get mad at your neighbor for, like, kicking his dog or whatever. Like, you just have to shut the fuck up about all animal abuse or all animal whatever, because when you selectively get mad...
Is that how you feel? Like, you would shut the fuck up about your neighbor kicking his dog?
Yeah, I would think the neighbor is really fucking weird, but, like, it's just an animal. That's it. Like, beating your car or whatever. But if you have like a strong emotional reaction to somebody like abusing a cat or a dog and you want to intervene on that and you eat meat, you're the worst type of person. You're worse than a meat eater. You're worse than a vegan. You're the dumbest and worst type
That's
of
the type of person I am in.
Okay, listen.
This is the Hassan enemy. If you eat meat, you're not allowed to intervene when people torture animals. Now, we can get into a variety of reasons why there's a moral distinction to be made between companion animals and the difference between torturing animals for pleasure and like farming animals for food. Okay, like there is significant moral differences. And the thing about Destiny in particular is that he's a moral idiot. Like, he's a dumb guy. How to explain Destiny? He is somebody who, if he cannot make an argument, he decides that nobody could. And then he just says, well, what I intuit is therefore the correct position. And I want to say that this is like the height of midwittery. Like, this is the height of midwittery. This is grandiose narcissism of the highest order. Just because you can't come up with an argument in the moment doesn't mean there isn't one. Sometimes you could just say, you know what? I need to look into this more. I need to think about this more. You don't just go, I can't make an argument, therefore I'm going to declare it concluded. And there are plenty of ethical and moral ways, in my opinion, to farm animals where you consider, for example, in America, and many people don't know this because we have horrible factory farms, but it has been the law in America for decades. Animals must be insensible to pain when they are killed. 1958. When you slaughter an animal, they're not supposed to feel pain. If they are feeling pain, you are violating the law. Now, people don't know this. The most notable of these requirements is that they need to have an animal completely sedated and insensible to pain. This is to minimize suffering to the point where the animal feels nothing at all. Do people break this law? Yes, they absolutely do. But the idea that we don't treat animals with moral consideration, even ones that we farm, is just basically not understanding He's a sociopath. He's a freak. Are there plenty of people that break those laws? Yes. But our standards and our values say that we don't like that. We try to draw moral lines between torturing animals and dogs and cats, and even livestock animals are given moral consideration by our society. Imagine being morally behind 1958 America. What a fucking weirdo.
About it. Tech founder.
Now, I want you to understand that, again, just because the law says this doesn't mean that there's not a whole bunch of deregulation that's happened and a bunch of laws that are broken and ag-gag laws and factory farming and all sorts of problematic shit. Absolutely there is, and there needs to be reform in that area. I'm not saying that our farming system is good, okay? I'm just saying that from a moral position and a legal position, we do not as a society just accept the idea that we could torture livestock. That's fucking not true. That's freak shit. And most people would not accept that. Most people are against it. In fact, most people are disgusted when they find out about factory farming. That's why there's a huge industry of people saying, I want pasture-raised chickens and grass-fed beef. That's people that most people recognize that shit is not good, and they try. Now, they're not really successful because consumer-based advocacy doesn't work, but they at least try to make more ethical decisions most of the time.
Palmer Luckey is offering $100,000 to anyone who can tear apart Hassan's.
Ethan Klein on killing dogs. I'm sorry, Asmongold.
He's a beagle killer. If he kills dogs or not. Like, why the fuck would I care? That has nothing to do with it. Like, it's a dog. Who cares?
Actually psychotic.
This shit, y'all get mad about that? Like, yeah, it's not a it's a fucking animal, man. People use animals for experiments all the time. It's not your dog. Don't worry about it.
He's always been a fascist worm, dude. He's always been that way.
Vibration collar, which I just want to say again, Kaya's like not even wearing in that original clip. She was just wearing her regular canvas collar with the AirTag holder. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Prominent Silicon Valley venture capitalists are weighing in. Posts pushing the conspiracy theory are among the most viewed posts of all time on subreddits like Livestream Fail. Israeli news sites have been mainstreaming the conspiracy along with a slew of low-quality SEO-driven outlets. Democratic influencers who are part of Chorus and the 1630 Fund's dark money influence campaign, like Suzanne Lambert, a failed comedian who calls herself a Regina George liberal, have also been pumping out this conspiracy. Even PETA has weighed in, though to be fair, PETA was like, Hassan said he doesn't use a shock collar. Like, what are we supposed to say? Piker has been subject to politically driven smear campaigns for years. But this latest manufactured controversy reveals a toxic new dynamic that I think will define the next era of the internet. Outrage-driven, Gamergate-style social media hate campaigns combined with the 24/7 video surveillance machine. Twitch streamers like Piker are the first to experience this destructive combination, but as more and more footage of everyone becomes available online, anyone who angers the wrong group could suffer a similar fate. And of course, all of this will be exacerbated by AI. For years, we've been told that constant surveillance is a good thing, that it's vindicating. Silicon Valley executives claim that widespread video recording will prevent abuse, harassment, crimes, etc. This has led to the mass adoption of things like police body cameras, 24/7 video capture on our streets, and a sprawling crowdsourced surveillance machine on social media. Social media platforms are actively incentivizing this surveillance, prioritizing video footage and hours-long live streams over every other type of content format. Just last month, billionaire, soon-to-be TikTok owner Larry Ellison said that a vast AI-fueled video surveillance system would ensure, quote, citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. This comment is a perfect encapsulation of the delusional fantasy pushed by so many in Silicon Valley, that the surveillance state will be used for good. The narrative is seductive. If we could just see everything in 4K, disputes over what really happened would collapse, the thinking goes. If everything in life is videotaped and archived, then the real truth of these messy situations would be indisputable. But Hassan Piker's dog collar incident shows that this theory is catastrophically wrong. Almost no one is more surveilled than a Twitch streamer like Piker. He broadcasts almost every waking hour of his life. There are tens of thousands of hours of archived footage of him and his dog. When he leaves the house or goes out in public, fans videotape his every move. He documents his own life on social media too, posting videos across Instagram and TikTok. In theory, this should make it harder for bad actors to manufacture controversies. Such total visibility.
No, but of course not. Because it's not about truth. It's about getting clips and then doing dip. Deceptive image persuasion, which is you have a clip that's ambiguous, then you put a bullshit lie onto it, and that colors how everybody interprets the clip. And then your brain fills in shit. Like, that's what it does. It's a pattern recognizing machine.
Should make false accusations impossible. If everything is on record, then surely it would be easy for anyone to see the truth of the situation. But the opposite is true. Instead of video being used as a tool to debunk conspiracies, it's increasingly used as a tool to validate them. In Piker's case, this has meant that an endless stream of years-old clips is being repackaged and miscontextualized in order to further a politically driven hate campaign. The dozens of out-of-context video clips spreading on social media, racking up millions of views in some cases, have become a digital Rorschach test. Albert Fox-Khan, founder of the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, said, quote, "We are always given the same lie that somehow video is objective. But the truth is that there's so much power in how it's interpreted and edited. Even the most trivial form of tracking, even someone's own Twitch stream, can turn into this weapon against them. Every camera is now a panopticon in the making."
So true.
Josh Citarella, an artist and researcher who studies online communities and radicalization, put it this way, quote, "Conspiracy theories and disinformation are flourishing because endless video archives are available. So long as the video archive exists, people can cherry pick and make these new narratives. If the videos didn't exist or were closed, then the narratives wouldn't seem credible. The possibility of people finding disingenuous clips to piece together a false story in an even marginally convincing way wouldn't be possible." Because each new clip has the potential to go viral and every major social platform right now is incentivizing video, users across the internet are incentivized to participate in these crowdsourced forensic investigations. The hate campaign against Piker has already spawned a cottage industry of video analysts and Reddit internet detectives.
We did it, Reddit! Yeah, Moist Critical, king of the Reddit detectives. Fuck. The king of the Reddit detectives is here.
Who have been pouring over thousands of hours of live streaming footage, analyzing every video frame, and constructing elaborate conspiracy theories about what really happened. The cycle is not entirely new. The tactics being used against Piker are ripped directly from the Gamergate playbook. The goal is to isolate a target, manufacture controversy, weaponize social platforms and traditional media to spread lies. And
by the way, guys, it's not going to work. Just so you understand this, is that we're not like Hassan. Like, this is so funny. Hassan is not like a typical streamer. Neither am I. We are political animals. It will not work. We support very specific political ideas. Those political ideas are popular. And people who want to promote those political ideas will come back as long as there isn't like criminal shit. This shit ain't gonna fucking work, bro. It ain't gonna fucking work. It might work on some random fucking like Twitch streamer that plays video games and shit, who depends upon corporate media money, right? That ain't gonna fucking work here, bitch.
Orchestrate sustained network harassment with the eventual goal of making someone
Teflon Hassan. Exactly. We are Teflon. Just like Asmongold is Teflon. Like, if you become a political person and you accept what that means for your career, you are just a political person, it costs you things, but it also creates the reality that you are Teflon unless your political allies throw you to the wolves. That's the only way. Hassan will only be canceled. All of the left cancels him, which we're not going to do because we know this is bullshit. It ain't gonna work.
So controversial that they essentially end up bankrupt and deplatformed. But most Gamergate-style campaigns have traditionally relied on more text-based media or vague accusations about the business dealings or journalistic practices. Bad actors might use a few screenshots here and there or some out-of-context comments, but the doctored evidence presented in these campaigns hasn't traditionally been video in nature. That has all changed with the rise of clip culture. The proliferation of this new medium and the sheer scale of this anti-Hassan Piker hate campaign shows that we're entering a new era of the weaponization of the internet, driven by attacks where video has undeniably replaced text as the raw material for conspiracy theories. Albert Fox Khan, again of the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, which is awesome, by the way, said, quote, with more footage being taken from more places and shared more widely at a time where journalism institutions are breaking, rather than being a way to bring us back down to the ground, video ends up just fueling these conspiracy theories. Influencers willingly monetize their own surveillance in order to turn their lives into content for
Oh my God, the bot guy replied to me. The bot guy we were just talking about replied to me, chat. The bot guy. So Tectone posted, bro blocks anyone telling the truth. So I screenshotted that he had blocked me. And I said, yeah, we know you do, coward. And he talks about me all the time, too. That's the funny thing. And so I went to this, and the bot guy's there. You're one of the who spent the entire week defending anal abuse. That's much worse than blocking someone. The bot guy, he's botting. The bot guy is botting. All right, back to iShow speed.
But if we continue down this path, the experiences of Twitch streamers will become more common in everyday life. The weaponized internet will merge with the surveillance infrastructure that we've built, and ordinary people will live under the same microscope as influencers do today. As the couple at the
one of the best things about having a classroom, have you guys ever been with like a small recitation or a smaller classroom setting, and you could have a conversation with your teacher that was a little bit more, I don't know, less stilted, more honest, more an opinion? You know what I mean? Where people could be like, hey, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Like, if we have these AI fucking panopticons, nobody's ever going to be allowed to do shit like that, because if somebody disagrees with your opinion, they're going to be so mad that you had that opinion. It's going to be you're not going to be able to have opinions anymore, because people are going to use them against you to punish you. Everybody's going to be sliced into a million fucking pieces because they have different opinions. Like, I'll give you an example of an opinion. Well, this isn't an opinion. It's more of a fact. Nonetheless, people are going to disagree with me. You should, and here it is. You should use the entire merge lane, okay, before you merge. So, for example, let's say you're on the highway and there's an arrow pointing to tell you to merge into to the right. You should drive right up to that sign and then merge, okay? And then you should zipper merge in. You shouldn't switch over early. You should go right into you should use the full zipper lane. You should go all the way up to the side, all the way up to the cones, and then you merge in. If a bunch of people are in the one lane and nobody's in the merge lane, you should absolutely zip past all those people, go right up to the merge point, and zipper in next. That is the correct, moral, legal, and 100% acceptable thing to do. You're not cutting in the line. I'll give you an example of what it's like. It's like if you go to the grocery store and there's a bunch of tills open, and one of the tills has 4 people in the line and one of the tills has 2 people in the line. You should go in the one with 2 people in the line. You're not an asshole. You're not cutting in front of the people that are in the 4 person line, okay? You are using the physical space of the tills, and you are putting yourself exactly where you're supposed to be. And for some reason, people think that's cutting. No, it's not fucking cutting. It's called using the space that's allotted to do the thing. And there is absolutely no disagreement. But yet, when I drive on the fucking highway, all you idiots don't seem to know this. All you fucking idiots don't seem to know this. Mike, I think morons are afraid that nobody will let you in at the merge point where it's expected. I can tell you right now, in my experience in life, for every belligerent moron who's trying to block the merge point, there is a over-friendly person who is scared in any way to have a confrontation. You will get in.
Play concert this past summer, or the security guard at Charlie Kirk's Final Turning Point event likely realized there is no way to opt out of this new system. AI will inevitably make all of this worse. Deepfake video generation tools are being rolled out en masse while media literacy plummets. Bad actors who are already comfortable manipulating real footage will begin fabricating videos of their targets or subtly altering them.
They're already doing it. Like, people are making AI videos of Hassan getting mauled by Kaya. Like, they're already doing it. I get my tier 3 sub back tomorrow. Sounds good, Jessica.
using AI. AI will also make it easier to search, catalog, and weaponize every video ever recorded. Finding all available clips of someone making the wrong hand gesture or wearing a specific color or moving their body in a certain way could be as easy as clicking a few buttons. If an influencer broadcasting tens of thousands of hours of his life for years can be successfully smeared by a single misleading clip, what chance does a regular person have when a few seconds of their life goes viral? What recourse do they have when they're unjustly smeared by thousands online? Institutional fact-based reporting outlets have been all but dismantled. And even when a journalist does debunk misinformation, like I'm trying to do right now, hello, audiences are primed to fall for narratives driven solely by whoever can post the loudest and clip the fastest. This type of video clip-driven harassment can be incredibly profitable. Platforms like X, TikTok, and Instagram reward video views with cash payouts. Bad faith actors can rake in thousands of dollars by posting a flood of context-free, shareable clips or dissecting video footage on a live stream. Any clip, no matter how benign, can be reframed in service of a particular narrative. For example, on Monday, thousands of X users falsely claimed that a sound made by Twitch streamer Austin Cho snapping his gum was actually Hassan Piker pressing some sort of secret shock button. I'm telling you, this stuff is deranged. In other videos, bad actors simply take any small movement by Kaya readjusting her position on her little dog bed as evidence of her being shocked into submission. Again, there's zero evidence of any of these delusional claims. People have also falsely claimed that Kaya is forced to sit behind Piker throughout his entire broadcast like a prop, which is just an insanely false claim that can be debunked by watching any of his streams where Kaya frequently moves about or goes to grab water or leaves the room. The Piker controversy might read as mindless internet drama, but
the only thing that he does is he makes sure if she's going to lay down in the room with him because she loves him. And if you don't know this, chat, if you're an incel who lives at home with your parents and your mom takes care of the dog spends time with your mom. Okay, you are the surplus human. Maybe you pet them, maybe you play with them from time to time, but they're not your dog. They're your mom's dog. Okay, a dog will hang out with the person who's been taking care of them. Dogs are very loyal. Okay, they stick with the person who they trust and who takes care of them, and so they will lay in the room with them for hours and hours and hours on end because they love them and they are attached to their owner. Now, it doesn't mean they won't get up and roam. It doesn't mean they won't go and do things like that. But when they're laying in the room with you, when Kaya is laying in the room with Hassan, he makes her lay on that bed because it's an orthopedic bed. He doesn't make her. He tells her to lay on that bed because it's good for her. Because laying on the hardwood floor might hurt her hips or her knees or her ankles. As a large breed dog that weighs 120 pounds, laying on the hardwood could damage those things over time. So by laying on the orthopedic bed, he's protecting her hips and keeping her healthy longer.
Desperately need people to start caring about these things and recognizing these types of incidents as the internet bellwethers that they are. We also need to be extremely vocal in calling out bad actors pushing these extremely politically driven lies about Piker and others. The fact that so many Democrat influencers, including Instagram accounts that even claim to be anti-disinformation, are pushing these grossly false, unsubstantiated claims as part of an effort to smear one of the most vocal leftists online is deeply disturbing. But that's what these centrist liberal influencers do, and that's why they're so dangerous. Just as with the original Gamergate over a decade ago, liberals who happily align with fascists to attack leftists will blatantly repost and promote false far-right smears about leftists in order to launder them to a mainstream audience. It's pitiful. This cycle is pitiful. Meanwhile, we are all sleepwalking into a future defined by universal surveillance coupled with algorithmic...
I mean, Taylor is completely right. Taylor is completely right, which is why I don't like liberals. Okay? And when I'm talking about liberals, I don't mean like regular people that vote for Democrats and want nice things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about liberal influencers and liberal politicians. They are knowing allies of fascism. American liberals have allied with fascists so many times in history that the list is almost too long to explain.
Incentivized online outrage. Our internet is devoid of any meaningful privacy protections, and video content specifically is being rewarded. Profit-driven tech platforms have ensured that bad actors and extremists reign, and we've allowed tech oligarchs to dismantle all vestiges of a shared reality. And I think we're really only beginning to see the consequences of this new system. As Albert Fox Kahn said, quote, "The lesson of history is clear. This is only going to become a more prevalent problem for more people as the technology continues to get cheaper and more ubiquitous. What might seem like the absurd price of fame."
I want people like Chris Hedges to speak. I mean, Chris Hedges will speak by just collaborating with Hassan and not caring about this dumb shit. Like that's like AOC is going to protect Hassan by just not caring about this dumbass shit. Don't worry. It's going to be fine.
Today may soon become the inescapable price of participating in modern life. We need to start treating this problem like the existential threat to democracy and truth that it is. And that means demanding real accountability from platforms that profit off outrage. We need to fight the expansion of the surveillance state tooth and nail by killing surveillance and censorship laws like the Kids Online Safety Act. We need to fight against Section 230 reform and push for comprehensive privacy regulation. The profit-driven tech landscape that rewards engagement at any cost needs to be dismantled and broken up. We need legal framework.
Right. I mean, the other thing that is we are entering a period where nihilism is something that you have to have a modicum of intelligence in order to understand why it is fundamentally flawed and pathetic. And there's a lot of people with poor emotional control and low intellect that if they become nihilistic, kind of functionally become sociopathic. It's like nihilism is a way of transmitting sociopathy through a mimetic thought. You know what I mean? And it's something that is like people like Asmongold are a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And so there is a proliferation of this kind of nihilistic hedonism, as people have called treatlerism. Algorithms need to be extremely regulated and publicly visible, allowing for watchdogs. They bitch about what about our IP? They could go fuck themselves. I completely agree with you.
That make intentional harassment committed with actual malice punishable. We need algorithmic transparency laws that force companies like Meta, X, and TikTok to disclose how their recommendation systems prioritize inflammatory or misleading content. AI developers and hosting platforms should be required to watermark synthetically generated video and audio content, and we should develop easily accessible tools to
even watermarking isn't enough. Watermarking isn't enough. We need like some sort of digital file type. I don't know. Even that's not sufficient. I don't know what to say.
Back when and how footage has been altered. And I know this is self-serving as a journalist, but actual journalism and civic institutions desperately need investment. We need an independent fact-checking infrastructure that moves at the same speed as these viral clips. We need public education systems that teach basic media literacy alongside skills like reading and writing. For instance, members of the public, in my opinion, should all know how to verify video footage, analyze metadata, understand concepts like algorithmic bias, and most importantly, understand and recognize how these manufactured outrage campaigns work. Of course, doing that would require for-profit mainstream corporate media organizations to stop feeding these outrage smear campaigns and laundering them simply because they're aligned with the far-right actors perpetuating them, but that's a topic for another day. More broadly, we need a cultural shift away from surveillance culture as entertainment. I've talked about this before in my videos, but if there's one thing you take away from this, please.
It's easy to put text on the side of the video saying it's AI generated, except you could then clip that out. There's a technology called cropping.
Please stop filming strangers for content. Do everything you can to fight against the surveillance machine. And most importantly, actually, stop sharing these contextless clips that fuel these manufactured outrage cycles. Even if you don't like
there's AI sites to remove the AI watermark.
Hassan Piker. Even if you think he's the worst person in the world, don't feed into this QAnon conspiracy crap. Call out people who you see online who are feeding into these hate campaigns too, because until we make it socially and economically costly for influencers who participate in these Gamergate-style coordinated attacks on leftists, this cycle will only get worse. As many of you who follow me know, I'm also frequently subject to these bad faith smear campaigns. Thankfully, there's not tens of thousands of hours of footage on me yet, at least, but the exact same actors lying about Hassan Piker's dog collar regularly lie about me. These are not people with any sort of commitment to the truth. They've targeted my advertisers, and I literally have zero brain.
By the way, chat, 100,000% you should like this. What the fuck? Did I get unsubscribed from Taylor? There's no way. What the fuck? I must have... there's no fucking way. I like Taylor's videos. I literally do. So there's no fucking way. Anyway, do what I just did and subscribe.
brand deals right now, in large part because I've been deemed too controversial for brands to partner with. So if you like this video, please support my work via the Patreon link below or buy a paid subscription to my Substack newsletter, UserMag, at usermag.co, where I publish bi-weekly internet culture news roundups. On my Patreon, I publish bonus content and host chats with my followers and do monthly Q&A live streams.
All right, chat, you heard the lady. Make sure that you are subscribing. If you enjoy this content, I don't run ads. I don't take sponsorships. What I do take is subscriptions, because the only people I want to be accountable to is my audience and my own conscience. I don't fucking change my position for anyone. And if I take a sponsored deal, it's because I'm given complete carte blanche to say whatever the fuck I want, which I haven't done. So if you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime. If we give the streamer man money, the politics line go up. No, you give the streamer man money and the streamer man goes happy. Streamer man says, I did you, mom. Thank you for gifting 5 gifted subs. Ham and Fist, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Chat, we are dangerously close to a hype. A hype trade allows you all to support the stream. Look at that. ZPD, thank you for the 5. And Clear Games, thank you for the 20. The top sub gifter and the top bit donor, they both get the hype trade conductor badge next to their name, which is a golden locomotive. How the hell are you a Central Committee fan and not a fan of trains? Like, literally, if I was a Central Committee subscriber who wasn't adorned with the purple locomotive of former hype trade conductor, I would get on that shit immediately. And remember, it is the top sub gifter and the top bit donor. Right now, you could take the top sub gifter with a measly 21 gifted subs. I mean, that's barely anything, right, chat? And or the top bit donation is 1,000 bits. So with 1,001 bits or 21 gifted subs during the hype trade, you too could be a hype train conductor. If you want to participate in the hype trade, you also get a hype chest, which is a emote. Rewards in your hype chest vary based on the highest level the hype trade achieves. Higher levels offer rarer rewards that can be permanently unlocked. Be sure to show off your rewards in chat. The top sub gifter and the top bit donor get those hype trade conductor badges. But if you sub, resub, use your prime sub, gift at least 200 bits, or gift at least 1 sub during the hype train, you are considered to be a hype train participant. Thank you, Jaeger Larson, for the 5 gifted subs as well. Natural Champs, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Appreciate you. And it's Socialism or Barbarism, thank you for the 5. Mike, another tier 4 to tier 1 just dropped. What's this? Oh, yeah. The satellite comparison between China between 2005 and 2024. Ribswith, thank you for the 2. And Zaffy Tabby, thank you for the 10. 19 years, Chad. Incredible. All right, chat. Make sure you get in there one more time to say thank you to Taylor for this video, which was really well put together, well argued. She does a great job. Honestly, I'm jelly. I need to step up my game, honestly. People wanted to show me this. Oh my Lord in heaven.
Interesting in years. Which is
that's not true. Connor Eats Pants just brought it up to you on fucking Fortnite Fridays, you liar. They just brought it up to you on Fortnite Fridays, you lying sack of shit.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC. And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Not relevant to my day-to-day life, which is just interesting.
Listen,
it's interesting.
What the fuck are you talking about? How many times have you been to Israel? You lying sack of shit. You lying sack of shit.
A visit to Israel on an unexpected stop. And today, Governor Newsom paid a visit to Israel on an unexpected stop that's raising some questions about his motivation. Ann Mankovic joins us with those details. Ann.
Yeah, this is seen as another step toward the national political stage. But California does have some strong ties to Israel, including the second largest Jewish population in the U.S. The first is New York, and their governor also just took a trip there. The governor's office released of his visit to Tel Aviv with soldiers, and he says the state of California is working to ship medical supplies to humanitarian relief in Israel and Gaza. Isn't the first California governor war. Arnold Schwarzenegger went to Iraq. And in the 70s, then Governor Ronald Reagan flew to now back at California's capital. A rally today to call for an immediate end to the violent Israeli military invasion of Gaza.
So, in other words, I haven't thought about it for years. Immediately did an emergency flight to Israel to fist bump soldiers. Fucking liar.
You say that. JPAC perhaps more, but APAC,
Fair enough.
Which is just interesting.
What's interesting about it?
That it's just interesting as you bring up APAC, it hasn't been part of, I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly, hasn't been part of the day-to-day.
Yeah. The only reason why I ask is because with that, what I'm talking about is lobbying in and of itself.
Interesting.
I am so excited for these next few years, chat. Assuming we don't all get rounded up by the fascist Republicans because the Democrats don't do anything and allow them to rig the fucking elections. I'm excited for that. By the way, chat, we got 50 seconds left on this hype train. We reached a level 11 hype train. Wow. That's amazing. And we are currently, okay, what are we at sub count wise? We're at 7718. 7718. Now, chat, reminder. The Trump administration is ready to impose a 500% tariff on China for the purpose of Russian oil? No, they're not.
Shut down when we
Taurus
can't
Red,
get 7 more Democratic senators across the line, but 85 U.S. senators are willing to give President Trump the authority to put up to 500% tariffs on China for the purchase of Russian oil. We shut down.
Or in draft, so this is quite real. But our expectation is that they won't implement this and that we'll be able to be back to where we were a week ago, where we had the tariff levels we've agreed to and we have the flow of rare earth magnets we agreed to.
You guys broke your word. Why would they keep their word? All right, everybody wants me to see this. And carrying thing, you have earned a subscription, sir. I hope you did anyway.
Hey, did you hear? What? Infamous radical extremist and charlatan Hassan Piker electrocuted his dog while streaming live to his thousands of brainwashed fans. Seriously? What the hell? Yeah, he reached off screen for like a button or something and then his dog yelled. That's terrible. Damn. Yeah. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Wait, why? Hey, did you hear? Beloved celebrity and social democrat content creator Hasanabi refuted the claims that he shocked his dog. Wait, I thought he did, though. That was a mass smear campaign. He showed the actual collar he uses and it doesn't shock dogs, apparently. Okay, well, I'm glad he didn't do that then. Yeah. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Wait, political opportunist and con man Hassan Piker actually did shock his dog. There's new evidence. Any updates? Several. The idea of a person known as Hassan Piker is possibly, though without certainty, using maladaptive methods of animal training. However, the subject has hit national attention, and at this point, the nature of truth is highly unknown. I'm not following. Thousands of reports, videos, deep dives, and investigations have churned up seemingly contradictory information. The incident, as it shall forthwith be known, has attained a status only comparable to crisis events. Crisis? A comic book event wherein timelines are reset, organized, and/or restructured for continuity. Did he shock his dog or not? Factions of political thought have shifted. The reality through which we previously measured scientific phenomena has broken down. It's become clear that all that can be unknown can never be unknown, and vice versa. What do you think happened? I don't know. Is this just how the internet works now? Or... Yeah. Great.
I mean, honestly, perfect video because everybody can read into it the way they want to read into it. Like, if you're a Hassan Piker shocker believer, you can watch this and not realize he's making fun of you. Or if you're a person who is defending Hassan, you can realize he's kind of lambasting the fact that we're going back and forth with these guys over this. But the point that I would say is, ultimately, I don't think you should keep quiet because it's safe for you. That's cowardice. But I like the video. It's good. Man carrying news for the unemployed. That one friend who comes over to your house for 30 seconds to tell you internet drama, then leaves. He's so good at this. Like, he's actually a really good content creator. Can I recognize man carrying thing as quite a good content creator? Fuck, he's good.
Hey, did you see the story about the guy who dug a tunnel under his house, ends up getting caved in, had to get a bunch of firefighters to rescue him? Yeah, how did you know this just happened? I'm sort of a news junkie. I like to stay informed. Right. Well, it looks like they'll be amputating his legs. And a pinky. Somehow, a pinky doesn't seem like that much to lose once you've already lost the legs. He broke quite a few city codes. You can't just dig a tunnel without a permit. No, yeah, that's pretty reckless. But also, it's his God-given right. Oh, wouldn't you agree? The government only benefits when we don't dig deeper to unearth the literal demons ruling over us. Metaphorically. Of course. But maybe literally. He did find an artifact from the demon Pazuzu. Sorry, where are you getting your news from? I try to read everything from all sides so I don't get any biased reporting. I just want the facts. No, I agree with that. I think that's great. And that's why I read the New York Times and Epic Hitler Bacon 88's posts on X, the Everything app. Okay. Epic has some crazy reporting on the tunnel incident, which leads one to believe that the tunnel was dangerously close to unearthing Tom Hanks's satanic underground cult. Do you believe that? God, no. But it's important to factor it into the narrative. Is it? My brain is a machine. I must feed on all the information lest I gain a bias. You wouldn't believe who Epic Hitler Bacon thinks is behind all of this. I could make a guess. This whole thing is frying my brain, man. Jesus, dude. Or it's nothing. I don't think you're doing this right. Doing what right? You can't just listen to everyone. That's stupid. Who do I trust? Big tech is destroying legacy media. Journalists can't make a living anymore. And AI married my ex-wife. Sure, okay. It doesn't mean we need to pay attention to Epic Hitler Bacon. I guess you're right. Your ex-wife married an AI? Yeah. I read about it in a Joaquin Phoenix movie called Her. Fucking ridiculous, man.
I also have a, like, I have
it's
a new
not
video.
really a fight about Hassan abuse.
I have a new video on the Kaya Gate as well. So if you want to see another video of me ranting about this, you can. All right. Fuck. What's going on in the world? What time is it? All right. What did we not talk about yet today? Okay. Taco Trump shit. Will Trump chicken out? Yes. Oh my God. Trump authorizes CIA covert action in Venezuela. Wow. That's so weird. Wow. Trump administration authorizes covert CIA action in Venezuela. But then it's not covert. That's overt. Oh, the Republican chat logs. Oh, fuck. That's a good point. I forgot the Republican chat logs. I think Hassan made a video on that because it came out right as I was ending my stream. Let's steal Hassan content. Wait, he didn't publish it? Hey, Mike, is this real? No. No. An hour? Jesus fucking Christ.
I need you to understand that the age range of these people is 18 to 40 in this group chat. It's not 12 to 14, okay? It's 18 to 40. Have you seen the political stuff? I haven't gotten to it yet, but I will in a second. And for those who are wondering what political stuff, we'll get to that in a moment. JD Vance just defended the group chats. Republicans never apologize for anything. This is far worse than anything said in a college group chat that the guy who said it could become the AG of Virginia. I refuse to join the pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence. Oh, he's using the other private text message.
They're saying they like Hitler. They're saying they like Hitler. They literally say they like Hitler. You're defending people liking Hitler now. The ADL. Where's the ADL, chat? Where's the fucking ADL? That's absolutely, I mean, like, I'm speechless. I thought Hitler defense was like, that's the one thing that wouldn't happen. Everybody agrees Hitler bad. Not everybody's Hitler, they say. But now they're like, yeah, you can say you love Hitler. That's the final Rubicon right there.
Between the AG of Virginia to deflect away from the political group chat. Speaking of group chats, JD Vance is a big group chat boy. So he has been in those group chats with a bunch of groypers, and who knows what the hell he said, to be fair, in those group chats. We know some of the things that he has said. It is, he was in that one? Oh, he was. Okay. Here's the Politico thing. Okay. Exclusive. Thousands of leaked messages show leaders of young Republican groups joking about gas chambers, slavery, in a private Telegram chat. Inside the rising GOP leaders' racist chats obtained by Politico spanning more than 7 months. I will be honest. I don't think this kind of stuff has motion anymore. I don't think people care. It's the least surprising thing of all time. You have to remember this kind of stuff only mattered if people in positions of power actually had a sense of dignity and shame. On the Democratic Party side, I think there is still some semblance of dignity and shame, or at least like an aesthetic posture towards dignity and shame, which they often weaponize against their enemies or try to weaponize against the Republicans. It doesn't work, but they try to weaponize against like their left flank, and it does kind of work because the left is the only suckers in the game that are super predisposed to not understanding like the complexities of of human beings and will measure you on the virtues of like what you represent in that immediate moment. But even when it goes above and beyond, when these guys are actually playing out these desires that they joke about in group chats, I just don't think that it works anymore. I think it just, especially for the right, it does not work. I guarantee everyone in that group chat knows who you are and hates you. Oh, for sure. These are the extremely online young Republicans. Of course they. This kind of stuff, do you want to know why? You want to know why this kind of stuff doesn't work? Because all of the forces that even remotely acted as though they care about anti-Semitism have in the last 2 years shown their true face, which is that they only care about anti-Semitism accusations as long as they can weaponize that against people who are anti-Israel. Bro, we got other leaks. Satellites are leaking the world's secrets, calls, texts, and military and corporate data. With just $800 in basic equipment, researchers found a stunning variety of data, including thousands of T-Mobile users' calls and texts, and even the U.S. military communications sent by satellites unencrypted. Oh my God, that's amazing. Anyway, the other reason why this stuff doesn't matter anymore is because of the weaponization of shamelessness demonstrated by the Republican Party. And last but not least, look at Twitter. Reacts. This kind of communication is no longer just done in private chat groups that actually showcase people's secret opinions. People say this stuff publicly and get hundreds of thousands of views on Twitter. The permission structure for neo-Nazi sentiment has expanded. The permission structure for being a reactionary has expanded dramatically. Okay? A part of that, and I think about this all the time, a part of that I think is just the way we communicate and the way we spend time online. As more and more of our interpersonal communication development actually takes place in an environment that is utterly removed from like your all of the other markers of what makes you a human being, where you can't tell if the other person on the other side of the screen is actually fully fleshed out adult with a fully functioning brain or an absolute sociopath. You end up assuming neutrality across the board. You end up assuming, I think, that the person that you're communicating with online is basically you on the other side. Like their background resembles you to a certain degree. Sometimes I'm reminded that that is not the case when, I don't know, one of these like Twitter accounts will be like, I'm 21, or they'll talk about like age gap relationships or something, like a political account that I follow. We'll talk about like age gap relationships. It'll be like a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old should never date. And I'm like, oh my God, you're literally a child. Like that's when I remember that like I'm getting information from an actual child. Okay. And I think this environment, the way that we, the more we communicate almost exclusively online, the more vicious we become as well. And I'll give you one example of this, right? I think you're wrong. This still does matter in political circles. I believe all but one of the people mentioned in this article have been fired from their jobs or resigned. We're not at peak acceptance of racist garbage and shamelessness yet. Scary, it could get worse. But I think if that was the case, Turning Point USA would have been shuttered a long time ago, especially considering that this is exactly what TPUSA used to do all the... And look where TPUSA is now. Charlie Kirk just got a posthumous Medal of Honor today. And for years and years and years, we saw Turning Point USA get... For years and years, we saw Turning Point USA get this kind of coverage over and over again. And look where it's at now. Yeah, Big Balls remained in government after his racist messages got leaked. I think they just don't care. I think people don't care, especially because the administration is openly putting to policy what these opinions actually are behind closed doors. When you have an administration that is also posturing as though they want to defend whiteness in this country, yeah, of course the people that are champions of that cause behind closed doors are going to be even more gross, okay? This is what I mean when I say that the permission structure has expanded so dramatically on the right. On the one hand, you can't have a conversation about like the violent retaliation to the endless amounts of violence that colonial subjects receive without being branded a terrorist. It's completely unacceptable. You can't say that. But on the other hand, you could just literally talk about like you can't trust Jews. As long as you're pro-Israel, you can say that. This is exactly the type of rhetoric that unironically is no longer hidden behind closed doors. I think it's like out in broad daylight. Nah, dog, the Republicans don't care, but the vast majority of people care about this. You have no idea how many white Facebook live wine moms I have seen share the story. I hope. I hope the liberal wine moms will defend us. Okay.
Thousands of messages shared in a group chat of young Republicans is revealing some racist thoughts that they even worried about being leaked. Well, those exchanges have been leaked, obtained by Politico, and are part of a Telegram chat among young Republican leaders in the following states.
You can't block the truth. What truth? What truth? Why do all your chatters protect pedophiles? You're what? The only pedophiles that I know of on the platform were Destiny with his CSAM and Pedo Troll. I'm going to have people in my administration who are Zionists, whether liberal Zionists or wherever they may be on the spectrum. This means he's going to have Lakudniks alongside the horde of J Streeters who already run his campaign. I mean, okay, first of all, this is a funny post. I love the squirrel. Keep it up, squirrel. Keep yelling at people. That's your job. But you guys were all over my ass for criticizing, what's his fucking name? Brad Lander. Thank you. Like, yeah, I don't like liberal Zionists, but like, that was always part of the campaign. Like, what are you guys talking about? They've always had people who are like, there's a genocide going on, but I think Israel should exist. That's always been part of the Zoran Greater Extended Universe. I disagree with that, but that's no different than, that's not a change. That's what's always been going on. Thousands of leaked messages showed leaders of young Republican groups joking about gas chambers, slavery, and rape. If you think all those are jokes, you're in for a bad time over the next 10 to 15 years. These motherfuckers. Asmongold, I promise you. I promise you. I promise you, Asmongold. I promise you. I promise you that you are not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything. If you think all those are jokes, pussy ass bitch.
It's New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. New York State politics reporter Jason Bieferman is one of the journalists who wrote about this for Politico. Jason, tell us about this story, how it came to you, and what.
Do you think some of those centrist leech are going to go, oh my God, what have I done? No. The type of personality to be a centrist is somebody who's so narcissistic. They're so fucking logged in. They're so capable of rationalizing all their self-serving behavior that they will not for a moment they don't have self-reflection. Come on.
This is the least shocking revelation for someone like myself. Maybe that's what it is. Because, like, of course they're like that. Political report on a group of chat of young Republicans. Does this reflect some bad apples? Some bad apples. These are the future of the Republican Party. This is so vile. It's hard to find the words to put in the context that these are people who are part of one of two major parties that they believe in gas chambers and discrimination based on the color of people's skin. And for me, when I hear stuff like this, I'm like, have you seen the Republican Party's policies? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when I hear this kind of stuff, I think to myself, like, how is this shocking? Because we are, and I mean this sincerely, we are like 2 election cycles, and election cycles happen at all going forward. We are 2 election cycles away from the president speaking like that. Okay? I'm going to be honest. That's what it feels like to me. Like, because the policies already reflect this, this desire, this vile attitude that people have. Slowly but surely, the Republicans have redesigned political discourse in this country to make people, sometimes by force, be much more open towards this kind of ridiculous, fascist, violent policy making. For us, it's a fork found in the kitchen moment, but for people who are less tapped in, it genuinely is upsetting to see. It's also especially insane because people in the older generations, especially older libs, don't see people in Gen Z and Gen Alpha talking like this because they see the younger generation as a hopeful generation that will fix everything. Yeah, for me, it's not even fork found in the kitchen. It's just like this is fork found in the fork factory, because I've known that the young Republican crop is almost entirely groped up. Yeah, Hitler Youth found beside Hitler. For us in this community, for us in this chat, for as tuned in as we are to like the back and forth and the commentary on the right-wing spaces nowadays, does this come even remotely as a surprise to you that a group chat of young Republicans leaked and it reflects the virtues, the values that you see from young Republicans that publicly posture in this way all the goddamn time? For me, I'm like, yeah, of course they're saying this shit. Of course they are. This is what they openly say as well, oftentimes under the guise of anonymous accounts. Oh yeah, speaking of fork found in the kitchen, breaking: MAGA pastor who wore Charlie Kirk's freedom shirt and sermon arrested for soliciting minors and distributing child images. Wow, how shocking. What, how? Oh my God. Another one? Wow. Remarkable. Let me tell you how confused I am. Okay. This is confusing to me. I am a guy who was born yesterday. I actually just got out of a coma. Yeah, Fork Meat Kitchen moment number 750,000. Let's continue.
Was exchanged in these Telegram messages.
You are born yesterday or just got out of a coma? Decide. Both. I was born yesterday and I was comatose. And today I woke up out of that coma.
Based on what your reporting has revealed.
I can't think of a more pathetic reality than we are living in right now. Is Asmongold going to TwitchCon? Is Asmongold going to TwitchCon? Who's going to TwitchCon? I guess Tectone isn't. Asmongold isn't. Why aren't they going?
Politico obtained over 7 months of thousands and thousands of messages in a Telegram group chat between, like you said, leaders in the Young Republican state organizations in Arizona, New York, Kansas, and Vermont. Now, it's kind of a misnomer, Young Republicans, because it's called the Young Republicans, but these are, full-grown adults, 18 to 40 years old. And over the course of these 7 months, they exchanged messages with, extremely anti-Semitic and racist comments. They referred to Black people as monkeys or the watermelon people.
I saw a lot of chatters go 40, Lamau, Young Republican. Yes, for the Republican Party. 40 is young. Anyway, I can't make up my mind. I'm the leading chief counsel of the ADL, and I can't make up my mind until I find out what these people's positions are on Israel. Once I figure out if they're pro or anti-Israel, I will really reconsider whether or not I have decided that this is truly anti-Semitic or just a bunch of young guys having fun.
People they called epic. They talked about the love of Hitler with factions of their party or even supporting slavery. This was a chat with members elected to lead their states within a prominent Republican youth political organization that numbers 15,000 people. And they were in a campaign to lead this organization nationally. My colleague and I, my colleague Emily Ngo, we really looked into this and wanted to see, why are they speaking like that to each other? And does this have anything to do with kind of the way that the norms of our political discourse have been changed?
Yeah, ADL thought watermelon people referred to Palestinians, so they were like, this is actually A-okay.
No, they were being incredibly racist against Black people. And that's the thing that's ridiculous about this. That's what's absurd about this is and I think I want to watch the CNN version of this instead of Hassan's version of watching it. Which is basically you could have all sorts of Republican politicians saying they love Hitler and it gets less attention. I mean, I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say anymore. Leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried that what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing anyway. They referred to Black people as monkeys and watermelon people, amused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide and lauded Republicans who they believe support slavery. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used the words, the N-words, and variations of a racial slur more than a dozen times in the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as epic. Peter Giunta, who at the time was chair of that same organization, wrote in message in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. Giunta was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should become chair of the Young Republican National Federation, the GOP's 15,000 member political organization for Republicans between 18 and 40 years old. I'm going to create some of the greatest psychological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers, he continued. 2 members of the chat responded. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. I'm ready to watch people burn now. We gotta pretend that we like them. Hey, come on in. Take a nice shower to relax. Boom, they're dead. Literally referring to how the Nazis designed gas chambers to look like showers so that they could get victims compliance in removing their clothing, and that they would all go into a packed, a gas chamber without resistance. Can we fix the showers? Okay. The exchange is part of a trove of Telegram chats obtained by Politico and spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders. The chat offers an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening. Since Politico began making inquiries, one member of the group is no longer employed at their job and another's job offer was rescinded. Prominent New York Republicans, including Elise Stefanik and Senate Minority Leader Rob Ort, have denounced the chat, and festering resentments among young Republicans have now turned into public recriminations, including allegations of character assassination and extortion. The 2,900 pages of chat shared among a dozen millennial and Gen Z Republicans between early January and mid-August chronicled their campaign to seize control of the National Young Republican Organization on a hardline pro-Donald Trump platform. Many of the chat members already work inside government or party politics, and one serves as a state senator. Together, the messages reflect a culture where racist, anti-Semitic, and violent rhetoric circulate freely, and where the Trump-era loosening of political norms has made such talk feel less taboo among those positioning themselves as the party's next leaders. The more the political atmosphere is open and liberating, like it's been with the emergence of Trump and a more right-wing GOP even before him, it opens up young people and older people to telling racist jokes, making racist commentaries in public and private. Said Joe Figian, a Texas A&M sociology professor who has studied racism for 60 years. He's also concerned the words will be applied to public policy. It's chilly, of course, because they will act on these views. The dynamic of easy racism and casual cruelty played out in often a dark, vivid faction inside the chats, where campaign talk and party gossip blurred into streams of slurs and violent fantasies. The group chat members spoke freely about the pressure to cow to Trump to avoid being called a rhino, the love of Nazis within their party's right wing, and the president's alleged work to suppress documents related to wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein's child sex crimes. Trump's too busy burning the Epstein files. Alex Dwyer, the chair of the Kansas Young Republicans, wrote in one instance. Dwyer and Katie declined to comment. Maligno? What the fuck? This sounds like a fucking supervillain's name. Maligno? What the fuck? Maligno? Giunta claimed the release of this chat is part of a highly coordinated years-long character assassination led by Gavin Wax of the New York City Young Republican Club. These logs are sourced by way of extortion and provided to Politico by the same people conspiring against me, he said. Bro, these are your words. What do you mean conspiring, you fucking lunatic? What's most disheartening is that, despite my unwavering support of President Trump since 2016, Rouge members of his administration, including Gavin Wax, have participated in this conspiracy to ruin me publicly simply because I challenged him privately. I'm so sorry to those offended by the insensitive and inexcusable language found within the more than 28,000 messages of private group chat that I created during my campaign to lead the Young Republicans. While I take complete responsibility, I have no way of verifying their accuracy, but deeply concerned that the message logs in question may have been deceptively doctored. I apologize, but I didn't say it. At least one person in the Telegram chat works in the Trump administration. Michael Bartels, who, according to his LinkedIn account, serves as a senior advisor in the Office of General Counsel within the U.S. Small Business Administration. Bartels did not have much to say in the chat, but he didn't offer any pushback against the offensive rhetoric in it either. He declined to comment. A notarized affidavit signed by Bartels and obtained by Politico also sheds lights on the intra-party rivalry that led to Ristori War Room Telegram chat to be made public. Bartels references Wax as well. He wrote that he did not give Politico the chat and that Wax demanded in a phone call that he provide the full chat log. When I attempted to resist that demand after providing some of the requested information, Wax threatened my professional standing and raised the possibility of potential legal action related to an alleged breach of a non-disclosure agreement. My position within the New York Young Republican Club was directly threatened. Mixed into formal conversations about whipping votes, social media strategy, and logistics, the members of the chat slung around an array of slurs, which Politico is republishing to show how they spoke. Epithets like the F slur, the R slur, the N slur appeared more than 251 times combined. In one instance, Walker, who at the time was a staffer for Ort, talked about how a mutual friend of some in the chat dated this very obese Indian woman for a period of time. Giunta responded that the woman was not Indian. She just didn't bathe often. Samuel Douglas, the state senator from northern Vermont and head of the state's Young Republicans, replied to Giunta. In a separate conversation, he shared that his flight to Charleston had landed safely. Then he offered some advice for his fellow Young Republicans. If your pilot is a she and she looks 10 shades darker than someone from Sicily, just end it there. Scream the no-no word, Giunta wrote. I was shocked and disgusted to learn about the racist, anti-Semitic, and misogynistic comment.
Pig sounds.
Pig sounds. God damn, dude. These people think they're the master race. Walker had been in line to manage Republican Peter Orbacher's campaign for Congress in upstate New York, but a spokesperson for the campaign said Walker won't be brought on in light of the comments in the chat. Only an activist left-wing reporter would desperately try to tie President Trump into a story about a random group chat that he has no affiliation with, while failing to mention the dangerous smears coming from Democrat politicians who have fantasized about murdering their opponent and called Republicans Nazis and fascists. They say they like Hitler! The leaders of the Young Republican Club are saying they like Hitler! I think we can call them Nazis now! No one has been subjected to more vicious rhetoric and violence than President Trump and his supporters. When Luke Mossyman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching an NBA playoff game, Giunta responded, "I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball." Giunta elsewhere refers to black people as the watermelon people. Hendricks made a similar remark in July. Bro is at a chicken restaurant ordering his food. Would he like some watermelon and Kool-Aid with that? Hendricks was communication assistant for I mean, like, literally, I'm going to get canceled. I'm going to get canceled if I talk about this person. If I say what I'm thinking, I'm going to get canceled. Caleb, can we get Caleb Harrington on the stream to speak it for me? Caleb, I need you. Politico reached out to Dane Dry Herbert. What the fuck is this name? Is this some like Nazi name? Dane Dry? Like what the fuck? We were aware of the issues raised in your article that Hendricks is no longer employed in the Kobach office. I had some back and forth with VC in Michigan. Current chair is a deer in the headlights. We have a call Wednesday. Many agree. He did say, my delegates and I will vote for the most right-wing person. Great. I love Hitler. Like, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it fucking is. Mein lolly. I was going to say they have the same haircut. Like, I have been to some butch dive bars, and that's the haircut that was going around. In another exchange, Dwyer, the Kansas chair, informs Giunta that one of Michigan's Young Republicans promised him the group will vote for the most right-wing person to lead the national organization. Great. Dwyer reacted with a smiley face. Few minority groups are spared from the Young Republican group's chat. Their rhetoric, normalized at most points as dark humor, mirrors some popular conservative political commentators, podcasters, and comedians amid a national erosion of what's considered acceptable discourse. Giunta's line on a darker skinned pilot, for example, echoes one used by slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk last year when he said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Kirk was discussing how diversity hiring invites unwholesome thinking. It's really sad, you know, chat. It's really sad. How long do you think the Charlie Kirk slider is going to be around, do you think?
I live like a capitalist every single day, Chank.
They need a new soundbite. They need a new soundbite. It's been a minute since he was living like a capitalist. Walker also uses the moniker Eye Patch McCain and an apparent reference to Governor GOP Rep Dan Crenshaw. Crenshaw lost his eye while serving as a Navy SEAL in Afghanistan. Walker also makes the remark, I prefer my war heroes not captured. Gibson reviewed multiple excerpts of Young Republicans chat provided by Politico. One was a late July message where Mossman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, mused about how the group could win support for their preferred candidate by linking an opponent to a white supremacist group. But Mossman then realized the plan could backfire. Kansas Young Republicans could end up becoming attracted to that opponent. Can we get them to start releasing Nazi edits with her, like pro-Nazi and fascism propaganda? Fascism misspelled. Oh my God, I love this plan, said Racial Hope. The only problem is we will lose the Kansas delegation, Mossman said. Gibson said the Young Republicans conversations reminded him of online discussions between members of neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups. You could say it once or twice, it's a joke, but you say it 251 times, it's no longer a joke. The more we repeat certain ideas, the more real they become to us. Weeks later, someone in the chat staying in a hotel asked its members, guess what room we're in? 1488, Dwyer responds. White supremacists use the number 1488 because 14 is the number of words in the white supremacist slogan. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and 88 often used as shorthand for Heil Hitler. In another conversation in February, Giunta talks approvingly about the Orange County Teenage Republican Organization in New York, which appears to be part of the network of national teenage Republicans, and how he was pleased with its young members' ideological bent. They support slavery and all that shit. Mega based, he said. The term based in internet culture is often used to express approval with an idea, often one that's bold or controversial. Mossy Man was derided by members of the chat as a stay in the closet walker of New York, also jested in July, though he is the group's main target for the same epithet. The group used slurs against Asians too. My people built the train tracks with the Chinese, Walker says at one point, referring to his Italian ancestors. Let his people go, Maligno responds. Keep the though. In another instance, Mossman tells the group that Spanish came to America and had sex with every single woman. Sex is gay, Dwyer writes. Sex, it was rape, Mossman replies. Epic, Walker says. So you mean Hayden Efsler wrote the resolution himself? Giunta asked the group about the National Young Republicans chair in late May. Rape Hayden, Mossman declared the following month. Adolf Hadget is in the bunker as we speak, Walker said in July. Young Republican National Federation condemns all forms of racism, anti-Semitism, and hate, Padgett said. I want to be clear that such behavior is entirely inconsistent with our values and has no place within our organization or the broader conservative movement. Giunta also had an expletive-laden criticism for the Young Republicans in states that were supporting or leaning towards Padgett's faction. Minnesota F-slurs, he messaged. Arkansas, inbred cow fuckers. Nebraska, revolt in our favor, block their bind and have a majority of the delegates. Maryland, fat, stinky Rhode Island, traitorous who I will eradicate from the face of this planet. Giunta also said he planned to make one of the competing Young Republicans unalive himself on the convention floor. I was about to say you're giving Nationals too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest, Breonna Douglas, Sam's wife and Vermont Young Republican National Committee member, replied to her husband's message. Breonna Douglas did not respond to repeated requests for comment. If we ever had a leak of this chat. While reporting this article, Politico was examining a separate allegation that Giunta and the Young Republicans mismanaged the New York organization's finances and hadn't paid at least one venue for a swanky holiday party it hosted last year. Politico's report detailed how the organization was missing required financial disclosure forms and how their subsequent efforts to file the forms revealed the organization was in more than $28,000 of debt. As of Tuesday, updated records show the organization has more than $38,000 of debt. At the same time, Giunta told Politico allegations were nothing more than a sad and pathetic attempt at a hit job. He and Walker speak flippantly about mishandling the club's financing. NYSRY account be like $500, Balding Cream $1,000, Ozempic, Walker said in one message. New York SYR will be declaring bankruptcy after this. I just know it, he said in another. I drained $10K tonight to pay for my next vacation to Italy, Giunta appeared to joke about the organization's bank account. I spent it on massage, he says of another check that was deposited in the account. Great. Can't wait to get sued by our venue, Walker replies. In one instance, he joked about bombing the Young Republican National Federation's convention in Nashville and then remarked, just kidding, for a assigned FBI tracker. In another, he considered the totality of the thousands of messages he and his peers had written and that what would happen if the public saw them and it came to light. If we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked. For real, he wrote. I think one of the things about this is it's not surprising. It's not surprising the hogs are making pig noises in their fucking group chat. But on the other hand, it's like, they're saying I love Hitler and nobody gives a shit. But people are spending their precious time on Earth cooking up fantasies about Hassan shocking his dog. All right, chat. I'm going to call it there. If you're going to TwitchCon, make sure that you hop into the Discord for any updates. If I'm there, which I'm probably going to be around the convention once in a while. So if you see me, feel free to come say hi. I don't know how many political streamers are actually going to go. So I might be the only one. I'll try to be safe. Thanks so much, guys, gals, non-binary pals. I'll try to see you tomorrow. Regular time. I'm gonna try to bring my streaming setup with me. Hopefully it's not too fucking terrible. All right, everybody, stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. I'll see you all soon. And of course, peace out.